Chapter 2020. User Fuchin has failed to challenge nourishment. Everyone will be expelled from Medicine King's inheritance space. Medicine King's inheritance third stage, nourishment, only has one chance to challenge. If you fail again, or if no one finds the entrance within 7 days, Medicine King's inheritance will be permanently closed. Tianguang Ruins. This is already the 7th day since nourishment opened. However, no one has found the location of the third entrance. Although Mu Yan feels that it's a pity, she can only admit that she might not be fated with Medicine King's inheritance. On the contrary, Liang Chen's army looks even more anxious and unwilling than her. Even if there is only half a day left, they must turn Tianguang Ruins upside down. They don't believe that Lu Laoshi and Fuchin's people can find the entrance. They, Liang Chen's army, are so useless. There are thousands of people, but they can't even find the entrance for the great god they support. Mu Yan looks at them bustling about, and her heart is filled with unspeakable gratitude and guilt. Thus, she wandered around Tianguang Ruins, hoping to encounter this last opportunity. Nyang Qin. As she is worrying, Xiao Bao's crisp voice comes to her ears. Then, a small body bumps into her arms. Along with it is a colorful chicken and a strange rabbit with a pair of pink big eyes. Mu Yan looks at her son's 2 spirit pets, and her mouth twitches. What kind of aesthetic is this? Not a beautiful phoenix, but a coloring plate chicken. He didn't want to be a fluffy and fat rabbit, but instead wanted to be neither. It's all because of Qi Huang and Bai Xie. These 2 brats have led them astray. Bai Xie and Qi Huang are both tool spirits. To enter Tianguang Ruins, they need the Drifting Soul Seal. But the Drifting Soul Seal is too expensive, and Mu Yan can't afford a second one. Xiao Bao solemnly vowed that he'll earn it for Bai Xie. Therefore, Bai Xie can't enter Tianguang Ruins right now. At most, he can attach himself to Xiao Bao's soul and come in to watch the fun. Thus, this guy is in a bad mood, so he starts to brainwash the fat rabbit. Fat rabbits have no future. Slim and slender is the way of the king. How can a mung-bean-eyed rabbit attract a female rabbit? Fat rabbit, you attract female rabbits. Your whole family attracts female rabbits. Of course, it's Pika Pika's big shiny pupils that can become a fan of millions. Look at Little Master and the Goddess. Which one of them doesn't have big watery eyes? In short, Little Phoenix was tricked by Qi Huang, and Fat Rabbit was tricked by Bai Xie. The image of the 2 pets in the Tianguang Ruins was simply unsightly. Mu Yan dislikes them for being by Xiao Bao's side and making him lose face. But before she could speak, she heard Little Phoenix fluttering his colorful wings and said, "Beautiful sister, we found a fun place, come play with us. Okay?" The fat rabbit wiggled its enchanting little butt. Mu Yan felt embarrassed. She turned her head and held Xiao Bao's little hand. "Baby, did you have fun in Tianguang Ruins?" Xiao Bao's little face was still expressionless, but it was no longer tense. His pair of blue eyes were sparkling. Hearing Mu Yan's question, he immediately nodded. There were many interesting things in Tianguang Ruins, many of which Little Bao had never seen before. Suddenly, Xiao Bao thought of something. He summoned the jade key storage space and muttered a few words. Then he looks at Mu Yan with big sparkling eyes. "Nyang Qin, here are the crystals." Chapter 2021. Mayan stares blankly and glances at her jade key space. She is startled by what she sees. Xiao Bao has transferred 800,000 high-grade crystal stones to her storage space. How many days has it been since Xiao Bao said he wanted to enter Tianguang Ruins to earn crystal stones to pay off her debt? He actually earned 800,000 high-grade crystal stones. Even her father's income from the world's #1 store couldn't be this fast, okay? Mayan, baby, where did you earn so many crystal stones? Xiao Bao shyly lowers his long eyelashes and nervously asks, "Does Nyang Qin like it?" "I like it." Mayan firmly kisses his tender white cheek. "Nyang Qin likes it." Xiao Bao's little face is bright red, but he can't help but smile. The chicken, oh no, Little Phoenix continues to cry. "Beautiful sister, there are a lot of treasures over there. No one else can find them. Only little brother can. Would you like to go with us?" Mayan looks down at Xiaobao's eager eyes and nods. She has been wandering around for a long time without finding any clues to the entrance anyway, so she might as well accompany Xiaobao. Perhaps an unintentional willow tree will have a harvest. Xiaobao quickly brings Mayan to an incomparably vast place. Mayan has heard of this place before. It is called the Desolate Area, also known as the garbage dump of Tianguang Ruins. It is independent of the upper, middle, and lower districts. Tianguang Ruins completely simulates the living conditions of human beings in reality, so it specially opened up a garbage dump. Every day, the things that cultivators throw away in Tianguang Ruins will be transferred to the Desolate Area. Of course, unlike reality, if the garbage in the Desolate Area accumulates to a certain extent, it will be cleaned up. Many people know that it is possible to find treasures in the Desolate Area, but the Desolate Area is too big, and there is also a divine sense interference boundary. To find treasures inside is not something that a cultivator above the leaving body stage can do. But Xiaobao unexpectedly found a treasure worth 800,000 high-grade crystal stones in the Desolate Area. Mayan glances at her son and can't help but feel jealous. This is the child of destiny. Casually picking up garbage can earn a lot of crystal stones. Mayan has just tried to cover the entire Desolate Area with her divine sense to see if there are any treasures. In the end, she found that it is simply impossible. The barren land was too big and there were too many disturbances. So, Xiaobao really relied on his luck to pick him up? Or maybe Fat Rabbit. If he remembered correctly, this fellow was also an expert in discovering and devouring treasures. When they first met, this guy swallowed Gong Qianshue's sacred beast egg. The corners of Mu Yan's mouth twitched when she saw the three little ones rushing into the barren area to scavenge. Because in the blink of an eye, Xiaobao picked up another treasure. Mayan was standing so far away, but she could feel the fluctuation of spiritual power. He could easily sell it for dozens of high-grade crystals, right? Xiaobao and the fat rabbit, on the other hand, looked very disgusted. Mu Yan couldn't help but smile and shake her head. She lowered her head to pick up a bracelet at her feet. This thing was also a spiritual tool, but it was a pity that it was of the third rank and was damaged. So his luck was only good enough to pick up this? Just as this thought flashed through Mu Yan's mind, in the next moment, her fingers touched the bracelet, and a bright light flashed before her eyes. On the reincarnation square, Liang Chen's army was sighing. There were also unrelated cultivators who were feeling pity, gloating, and sighing. Chapter 2022. The 7th day of the Nourishing Item trial was about to pass. It seemed like no one would be able to obtain the Herb King's inheritance. Right at this moment, there was a sudden flash of light. Immediately after, a familiar scene appeared on the screen in the center of the plaza. 100 armed golden core realm cultivators. There was also a fluttering white robe. She had an ordinary appearance, but no one could ignore her. After a moment of silence, the reincarnation plaza suddenly erupted with loud shouts. God Yi! It's God Yi! She finally found the entrance to the Nourishing Item trial. Ha ha ha, I knew it was God Yi who obtained the Herb King's inheritance. Bah, Yi Liangchen broke through the Nourishing Item trial? Yesterday, God Fuchen spent so much time planting flowers and didn't succeed. While the outside was in a perilous situation, Mu Yan, who was in the inheritance space, was a little dumbfounded. What was going on? She just wanted to pick up a treasure with her son. In the end, she didn't find any treasure, but found the last entrance to the Nourishing Item trial? Thinking of this, Mu Yan couldn't help but smile. Xiaobao was truly her little lucky star. In fact, the Herb King's inheritance was open mostly due to Xiaobao's good luck. Now, she was able to find the last entrance to the Herb King's inheritance at the last moment because of Xiaobao. Xiaobao's eyes flashed with attachment, then turned into Yi Liangchen's army's ardent expectations. All right, even if it was for Xiaobao and those who supported her unconditionally, she must succeed. Mu Yan's divine sense slowly penetrated into the flower pot in her hand. Right at this moment, among the 100 golden core realm cultivators, someone spoke loudly. Yi Liangchen, Chu Tianyu offered 10 times the price that Tianguang Ruins offered yesterday. How much are you going to pay today? Hee. You are the Lord of 6 Stars, the #1 talisman master in Tianguang Ruins. Your shop must be earning a lot every day, right? If you don't give us a satisfactory price today, we will not be obedient. These 100 golden core realm cultivators revealed an expectant and greedy expression. Fuchen might have failed yesterday, but he fulfilled his promise. He gave those 100 golden core realm cultivators a lot of good stuff. Today, when they found out that they were chosen by Tianguang Ruins, they were extremely excited. How could he not be excited when the opportunity to make a fortune fell on his head several times? However, after they finished shouting, they found that the girl opposite them was not moving at all. Her willowy eyebrows were slightly knitted, as if she was in a daze. Hey, Yap Liangchen, did you hear that? Don't think that we're afraid of you just because you have the support of Liangchen's army. That's right. Without any benefits, we won't listen obediently. Mayan's consciousness slowly withdrew from the flower pot, muttering in a low voice, so that's how it is. No wonder Chu Tianyu failed yesterday. In fact, when Chu Tianyu failed yesterday, she had thought of a possibility. Now that she probed with her divine sense, she was even more certain. Hearing the clamor of the 100 cultivators, Mu Yan slowly raised her head. The corners of her mouth slowly hooked up, revealing a lazy and evil smile. Are you trying to extort me? The leading cultivator at the peak of Golden Core Realm frowned and said, So what if we are? Yap Liangchen, don't forget that you're the one who needs our help. My apologies. The smile on Mu Yan's face is getting brighter and brighter. It makes her ordinary face look even brighter. The person who can blackmail me, Yi Liangchen, hasn't been born yet. As soon as she finished speaking, she soared into the sky. Chapter 2023. Thinking until here, Mu Yan couldn't help but smile. Xiao Bao was truly her little lucky star. In fact, the reason why the Herb King's inheritance could be opened was mostly due to Xiao Bao's good luck. Right now, she was able to find the entrance to the Herb King's inheritance at the final juncture because of Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao's sparkling eyes flashed in front of her eyes, which then turned into the ardent expectation of Liang Chen's army. All right, even if it was for Xiao Bao and those who supported her unconditionally, she must succeed. Mu Yan's divine sense slowly permeated into the flower pot in her hand. Right at this moment, one of the 100 golden core realm cultivators spoke loudly. Yi Liangchen, Chu Tianyu offered 10 times the price that Tianguang Ruins offered yesterday. How much do you intend to pay today? Hee. You are the Lord of 6 Stars, the #1 talisman master in Tianguang Ruins. Your shop must be earning a lot every day, right? If the price you offer isn't satisfactory, we will not listen obediently. The 100 golden core realm cultivators revealed expressions of anticipation and greed. Fuchen might have failed yesterday, but he fulfilled his promise. He gave the 100 golden core realm cultivators plenty of good stuff. Today, when they found out that they were chosen by Tianguang Ruins, they were extremely excited. How could he not be excited when the opportunity to make a fortune fell on his head several times? However, after they finished shouting, they noticed that the young lady in front of them didn't move at all. Her willowy brows were slightly knitted as though she was in a daze. Hey, Yi Liangchen, did you hear that? Don't think that we are afraid of you just because you have the support of Liang Chen's army. That's right. Without any benefits, we will not listen obediently. Mu Yan's divine sense slowly withdrew from the flower pot and muttered, So that's the case. No wonder Chu Tianyu failed yesterday. In fact, when Chu Tianyu failed yesterday, she already thought of a possibility. Now that she probed with her divine sense, she was even more certain. Hearing the clamor of the 100 cultivators, Mu Yan slowly lifted her head and the corner of her mouth curled up, revealing a lazy and evil smile. Are you trying to extort me? The peak stage golden core realm cultivator frowned. So what if we are? Yi Liangchen, don't forget that you are the one who needs our help. My apologies. The smile on the corner of Mine's mouth is getting brighter and brighter. It makes her ordinary face look even brighter. The person who can blackmail me, Enchantress, hasn't been born yet. As soon as she finished speaking, she soared into the sky. At the same time, an invisible long sword condensed in her hand. Wherever the sword light went, the 100 golden core cultivators were all enveloped. They're just 100 pieces of trash. Instead of giving you any benefits, I might as well kill them all in one go. This is sword chi materialization? Isn't this something only leaving aperture realm experts are capable of? How could Yi Liangchen, a Jindan cultivator, do that? The cultivators on the reincarnation square were driven crazy by Yap Liangchen. Shock after shock, legend after legend. Many people were even numb to it, not feeling surprised at all. Calm down, calm down. What's there to be surprised about? You're ignorant, are you? To great God Yi Qingyu, this is nothing out of the ordinary. Otherwise, do you think anyone can become the Lord of 6 Stars? The golden core cultivators and nascent soul cultivators were on the verge of tears. Sword chi materialization at the Jindan stage. This is not normal at all. Chapter 2024. If this was a normal operation, they would all be rookies. Isn't the point that God Yi didn't choose to bribe 100 cultivators and chose to challenge him instead? Yeah. Even if Goddess Yi is really strong, in the face of 100 cultivators of the same level, and most of them are at the peak of the gold core realm, how can she win? Little Treasure, the fat rabbit, and the others had also rushed to the reincarnation square at this time. Watching the battle on the screen, Xiao Bao clenched his fists, his eyes shining brightly as he stared ahead. Mother is so strong, so strong. There's still a long way to go before I reach my mother. If he wants to protect his mother, he must work harder. Looking at the screen of light, the demoness who killed golden core cultivators as if she was chopping melons and vegetables, the fat rabbit couldn't help but shrink his neck. How terrifying! A female devil was indeed a female devil. He must never provoke in the future. At this time, in the inheritance space, Muyan's battle with 100 Aurus core stage cultivators had already been going on for half an hour. The ground was covered with the corpses of golden core cultivators. The last standing middle-aged man stared at the young girl in front of him in disbelief, his body trembling uncontrollably. Impossible! Impossible! From the corner of his eyes, the middle-aged male cultivator glanced at the 100 people who had already been killed, and felt like he was on the verge of collapsing. Each of his 100 cultivators was at least a 7-stage golden core cultivator. How is it possible for them to be completely wiped out within an hour? Was this Yi Liangchen, the Lord of 6 Stars? Is this the invincible king that all young cultivators worship? Puchi. The sword chi pierced through his neck, and he slowly fell down. Mayan lowers her hand, and the sword in her hand disappears. She slightly gasps for breath, and fine beads of sweat appear on her forehead. She had just killed 100 cultivators of the same level as her with lightning speed. It seemed as if he could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand, but in reality, it was definitely not that easy. Muyan doesn't look at the fallen Jindan stage cultivator, but instead lowers her head to look at the spirit plants. During the battle, she held the flower pot in her left hand. The blood of 100 golden core cultivators splashed on it, causing the flower pot and soil to be stained with blood. Muyan quickly fetches the rootless spirit water from the side and waters it. Then, she injects mellow spiritual power into the flower pot. In the next moment, a tender green sprout emerged from the soil. It grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. This rate of growth was clearly faster than Chu Tianyou's. In less than 10 minutes, the spirit plant had already grown to the height of an arm. 9 flower buds gradually appeared on the branch. The calyx that covered the petals opened slightly, allowing people to see the pink petals inside. Someone on the reincarnation square shouted, 9 flowers. Great God, he actually produced 9 flowers. Much more formidable than Fuchen. Also, why do I feel that Great Goddess Ye's flower is darker than Fuchen's? 9 flowers. What's the use of having a deep color? Won't it wither in the end? Just as everyone had guessed, after all 9 flower buds were formed, the first flower bloomed. The second, third, Fourth, all showed signs of blooming. However, what appeared even faster was the first flower. Black spots appeared on its translucent pink petals. This was obviously a sign of withering. People in the reincarnation square screamed. They knew that Yap Liangchen was going to fail. No one would be able to obtain the Medicine King's inheritance anymore. In the square, Liang Chen's army is going crazy, but Mayan's expression doesn't change. Chapter 2025. She looked at the first flower that was gradually withering, then at the corpses of the 100 cultivators that were slowly disappearing. She frowned slightly. Is this little bit of blood qi really not enough? Almost as soon as her voice fell, in the inheritance space, 100 golden core cultivators were resurrected. The expressions of these 100 people were completely different from before. Some were furious, some were gnashing their teeth, and some were terrified. However, no one dared to step forward. While the 100 people were hesitating, the first flower completely withered, and the second flower slowly bloomed. Muyan looked at the 100 people, and her lips curled into a disdainful smile. She held the flower pot in her left hand, and the sword qi in her right hand took shape again. Only then did he say casually, 100 experts? With this kind of standard, you still have the nerve to call yourself a powerhouse? Now, do you still want benefits from me? This contemptuous tone completely infuriated most of the Golden Core Realm cultivators. What's there to be afraid of? She's just a silly little girl. Didn't you guys notice that the spiritual energy around her has decreased by a lot? Her face isn't looking good either. Don't forget, she just used up a lot of spiritual energy. Didn't you guys hear the rules announced by Tianguang Su? She can't use elixirs here, nor can she replenish her spiritual power. The moment these words came out, the faces of the 100 Golden Core cultivators immediately changed from fear to joy. Right, and this time, we won't attack her. We'll attack the spiritual plant. She can block 100 of our attacks on her own. I don't believe that she can protect the spiritual herb in her hands at the same time. This thought didn't just run through the minds of these 100 cultivators. Even the people in the reincarnation square are sweating for Mayan. After killing 100 people, Mayan's breathing was uneven, and her pale face was still in front of him. Almighty Yu was naturally powerful and could easily kill 100 cultivators of the same level. But no matter how strong they were, without spiritual power to replenish their strength, how long could they last? This time, God Yu would definitely fail, right? However, the truth once again exceeded everyone's expectations. When Muyan has turned the 100th Jindan stage cultivator into a corpse for the second time, his blood flows like a river on the ground. Inside and outside the inheritance space, it was dead silent. The people in the reincarnation square were dumbfounded. Another round of slaughter. Another round of killing. Was he even human? Invincible among his peers. In the crowd, someone suddenly screamed. In the past, someone said that so-and-so was invincible among his peers, but I absolutely didn't believe it. But at this moment, I don't have the slightest doubt that God Yi is absolutely invincible among his peers. It's not just invincible. Even if you let a nascent soul cultivator kill 100 high-level golden core cultivators, they might not be able to do it. In my opinion, Great God Yi is invincible under the 3rd level of nascent soul realm. Reincarnation Square was in an uproar. Everyone was amazed at how terrifying, powerful, and invincible Yap Liangchen was. But very quickly, someone from Liang Chen's army cried out in surprise. God Ye's injuries are so severe. With these words, everyone's attention was once again focused on the light screen. With this look, many of the Liangchen army felt their hearts clench. There was a large group of Jindan stage cultivators surrounding them, and Muyan wasn't facing them, so they didn't notice. In the inheritance space, the girl stood alone in a pool of blood. His light-colored clothes had long since been dyed red with blood. Even her blood flowed down her arm and into the flower pot she was holding. Chapter 2026. Because there's too much blood, it's overflowing. On her hanging left arm, there's a hideous wound. The flesh is turned over, and the dense bones underneath can be seen. Xiao Bao, who's watching from a distance, suddenly clenches his small hands, his blue eyes filled with unwillingness, worry, and fear. He wants to rush over to help his mother, but he knows that he can't. In the Liangqin army, there are quite a few girls whose eyes are already red. Covering their mouths, tears fall down in a pitter-patter. Not only because the person they're supporting has suffered such a serious injury, suffering unbearable pain for ordinary people. It's also because she's clearly worked so hard, but the spirit plants in her hands, but they still withered one after another. In the second round of battle against 100 cultivators, Mayan spent an hour. It's twice as long as the first time. In this hour, there are only 3 flowers left from the 9 in her hands. And the 7th flower that's blossoming also has faint black spots on its petals. This means that the 7th flower is also about to wither. How could this be? Zhu Xiang cries very sadly. Great God, Yi obviously worked so hard. Why did he still fail in the end? Oh no, Devour, look, 100 cultivators are about to be resurrected again. Great God, Yi has already used up all his spiritual power. His body is full of injuries. How can he fight the 3rd round? Boo-hoo, what lousy Medicine King's inheritance, Great God Yi. Let's not take it, okay? In the square, not to mention the angry and distressed Liangqin army. Even those unrelated passers-by can't help but feel worried. Originally, they were still gloating. If they can't get the Medicine King's inheritance, it's best if no one else can get it. But at this moment, they suddenly hope that Great God Yi can get it. That's just a girl who looks like she's just 20 years old. She's already paid so much, left with injuries all over her body, blood all over. Why can't she succeed? However, the people outside are worried, but they suddenly see the girl with a deathly pale complexion, covered in cuts and bruises, looking at the spirit plant in her hands, suddenly blooming with a brilliant smile. Spiritual energy, blood energy, evil qi, 3 energies nourish a plant, so it's really like this. TSK, just what kind of divine being is this spirit plant to actually use such an abnormal method to raise it? If it wasn't for the fact that he had once used 10,000 plants resonating resonance and had a certain degree of sensitivity towards spirit plants, he wouldn't have been able to do so. He would never have guessed that there was actually such a delicate and strange spirit plant in the world. The point is, in this world, apart from Mu Yan, who has the Tian Mo Qin and can use the 10,000 plants resonating, is there a second person who can guess the real way to clear this level? That's impossible. Hearing Mayan's ravings, everyone in the reincarnation square stares blankly. Spiritual qi, blood qi, and evil qi. 3 qi nourishing a plant? What did that mean? Then, someone suddenly shouted, "Look, isn't the 7th flower much redder than the previous 6 flowers?" As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately came to a realization. The 7th flower was no longer pink, but close to a bright red. It seemed that he was only one step away from being bright red. Sister Hua came to a sudden realization. I get it now. This spiritual plant can't just be nurtured with spiritual energy and rootless spirit water. It also needs to be nurtured with killing intent and blood energy. This is the reason why Fuchin bribed 100 cultivators but was unable to make the spirit plant bloom and bear fruit. This is also the reason why Great God Yi didn't hesitate to choose to fight against 100 strong cultivators of the same level who can be resurrected. Just then, in the inheritance space, 100 gold core stage cultivators appear again. Chapter 2027. The 60 or so golden core cultivators had obviously noticed this as well. Each of them are happy, but then they reveal their ferocious faces. Ha ha, this bitch really can't do it anymore. She can't even take out her sword. Let's see how she's going to kill us this time. Yap Liangqin, now we'll give you another chance. The leading peak Jindan stage man says proudly, give each of us 100 times the reward of Tianguang ruins, and we'll let you go. How about it? There's no expression on Mayan's face. She doesn't care about the words of these people. She carefully observes the remaining 3 flowers for a while. Suddenly, the spirit plant planted in the flower pot is snapped in half. Everyone inside and outside the inheritance space exclaims. What is Yap Liangchen doing? Could it be that she knows that she has no hope of passing the stage, so she's giving up? Those 60 Jindan stage cultivators spit a few times in annoyance. A woman will always be a woman. She's exhausted her spiritual power and is afraid of us, so she's going to use this method to admit defeat. However, out of everyone's expectation, Mine's expression is unfazed. She leisurely snaps the spirit plant and directly holds it in her blood-stained palm. They thought that the spirit plant will wither and die. But who knew? The flower on top of it is still blooming. In fact, her complexion was even more beautiful than before. And there's no sound of defeat in the inheritance space. Does this mean that Yap Liangchen won't let the spirit plant die? She's not going to admit defeat. She's going to fight to the end. Mine uses her torn clothes to tie the broken spirit plant to her hand. The fresh blood soaks the branch even more, and the two blooming flowers are even more beautiful. However, it can't stop more and more black spots from appearing on the petals. Yap Liangchen, did you hear what we said? If you admit defeat now and agree to compensate us 100 times, we'll spare your life. This bitch dares to ignore us like this. How can 100 times be enough, at least 1,000 times? Mayan slowly raises her head, and her gaze falls on these people. Her mouth hooks up into a sinister smile. You still want compensation? Today Yap Liangchen, will leave my words here. If the 100 of you don't have enough killing intent, and if you're not strong enough, I won't be able to nurture this spirit plant. Just you wait. I'll demand compensation from you one by one in the real world. When the time comes, it won't be 10 times or 100 times, but 10 million times. The moment she said this, the 100 golden core cultivators were all dumbfounded. Damn it, this was the first time they had seen someone more unreasonable than them. This bitch couldn't grow any spiritual plants herself, so she wanted to seek compensation from them? Why? It had nothing to do with them. This was blatant extortion, okay? Wait a minute. Some of the golden core cultivators, whose faces were distorted with anger, suddenly reacted. You can't even materialize your sword chi, and you want to kill another 100 of us? Ha ha ha. Yap Liangchen, have you lost your mind because of the withered flowers? No sword, no spiritual energy, and your body is covered in wounds. Let's not talk about 100 people. Even 10 people would be enough to torture you to death. You still dare to talk nonsense to us. Is this really a big joke? Mayan sneers. No sword? Her blood-stained hand slowly stretches out. Who said I don't have a sword? As soon as she finished speaking, a blood-red light shines from her body. Immediately, the girl's flesh and tendons all burst open and blood splatters everywhere. Chapter 2028. Her already pale face was now drained of all color. Almost at the same time, the spiritual power that had disappeared from Mayan's body gradually emerges again. In her right hand, an invisible sword that was even longer than the previous one reappeared. Inside and outside the inheritance space, there is dead silence. Gulp. Someone swallows a mouthful of saliva, his eyes full of horror. Too ruthless? Did she explode her sea of consciousness and primordial spirit to gather spiritual power? Is Yi Liangchen crazy? Spiritual power can be recovered after it is used up. Those injuries are only materialized in Tianguang ruins, not real physical injuries. But she exploded her own primordial spirit and sea of consciousness that can't be recovered at all. Cultivators and spiritual pets can enter Tianguang ruins by relying on their materialized primordial spirit. Although fighting is forbidden in Tianguang ruins, there are some special battlefields that are used to practice magic weapons. Here, physical injuries in Tianguang ruins will not be reflected in reality. But primordial spirit is different. In Tianguang ruins, everyone is most afraid of primordial spirit injuries. But Yi Liangchen? Not only is she not afraid, she even exploded her own primordial spirit and sea of consciousness. The people on the reincarnation square are still shocked. The 100 Jindan stage cultivators in the inheritance space are going crazy. Damn, this woman is too ruthless. Is Yi Liangchen really a woman? Why do I feel that there are not many men who are more ruthless than her? Who the hell knows? Tianguang ruins can change one's appearance and gender. In my opinion, this is not something that a human can do. Exploding her own primordial spirit and sea of consciousness to gather the exhausted spiritual power. This will damage one's innate talent, and they may never be able to break through again. Moreover, can ordinary people bear the pain of exploding their primordial spirit and sea of consciousness? Isn't it better to die than to live? But looking at the girl in front of them, although her face is pale and there is not a single part of her body that is unharmed, her blood-covered face is calm and tranquil, without a trace of pain or fear. This woman is a fucking lunatic. Mayan holds the invisible sword and says in a low voice, "Weren't you very arrogant just now? Don't dare to fight now. A bunch of trash." The 100 faces on the other side turn red. However, looking at the sword in her hand, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. All right, they really didn't dare. In the past, when hundreds of rampaging beasts almost trampled them flat, they were not afraid. But now, facing this woman, they were really terrified. Mu Yen frowns. All of you attack me with all your might. Don't hold back the slightest bit. If you don't have enough killing intent and blood chi, you won't be able to nourish my spirit plants. You know the consequences. The 100 people on the other side shuddered. On the contrary, if you work hard enough to kill me, I can guarantee that I won't trouble you afterward. This was a blatant threat. If it was in the past, these old men who lived on the edge of a knife would definitely rather be killed than humiliated. But now, at the thought of being hunted down by this terrifying woman, no, this she-devil, in the future, the cultivators felt that there was nothing left to live for. In the end, these 100 people slowly raised their magic tools again. Mu Yen glances at the spirit plant in her hand. The 7th flower has already completely withered. The remaining 8th and 9th flowers had completely bloomed. Black spots had already appeared on the petals of the 8th flower. Time was running out. Chapter 2029. Mayan points the tip of her sword, suddenly releasing her evil chi. At this moment, someone on the opposite side suddenly asked loudly, If we help you obtain the Medicine King's inheritance, will you allow us to join Liang Chen's army?" As soon as he said that, the eyes of the 100 people lit up, filled with anticipation and excitement. Liang Chen's army. Everyone knew that this was the wealthiest, most glorious, and most arrogant organization in the entire Tianguang ruins. Talismans, elixirs, vanity, he did not lack anything. It was just that Liang Chen's army was very united and cohesive, and they were very strict with those who wanted to join. Itinerant cultivators like them, who had no power or influence, and whose background was not clean, would definitely not stand a chance. Originally, these ruthless cultivators, who were used to doing things their own way, did not want to join any organization. However, Yi Liangchen was just too strong. He was so strong that they were afraid and convinced. Now, they felt that it was pretty good to follow such an awesome, powerful, and omnipotent boss. The eyes of the golden core cultivators in the inheritance space lit up. Outside, Sister Hua, Godfather Ma, and the others almost cursed out loud. What the hell? How dare he threaten God Yi at this time, and even want to join Liang Chen's army? This group of bastards. Even if they really join in, I'll torture them until they wish they were dead. However, the people inside and outside the inheritance space did not receive Mu Yan's reply. A blood-colored figure had already soared into the sky, directly disappearing into the crowd. You've been chattering away for half a day, but you don't even dare to fight. You want to join Liang Chen's army with your pathetic looks? If you want to join Liang Chen's army, you'll have to kill me first. Drip, drip. Fresh blood drips from Mayan's bony hand, winding into a river of blood on the ground. There was a fist-sized hole in her abdomen. His left shoulder was almost sliced off. There was not a single piece of flesh on his body that was unscathed. Other than dripping onto the ground, the blood also flowed onto the stalk and leaf of the spiritual plant tied to her left hand. At this moment, the dark green stems and leaves were faintly red, and on the branch, there was a bright red flower that seemed like it could drip blood, blooming brilliantly. This was the only one of the 9 flowers left. It was also the only one that was not contaminated by the black spots. However, a flower was still a flower, not a fruit. Muyan shook her head, and everything in front of her began to turn into a shadow. Her body was ice-cold, heavy, and empty, as if she couldn't control it at all. Her ears were ringing, and she couldn't hear anything. The remaining dozen or so golden core cultivators gripped their weapons tightly in their hands, but they were unable to advance or move. More than 10 people's eyes were slightly red, but it was not because of anger or fear. Instead, it was an incomparable shock. How many waves of people had this girl killed? Was it the 4th wave or the 5th? She exploded her primordial spirit and consciousness again and again. Did she really not want her life anymore? How could someone be so cruel to themselves? How could anyone be so strong? The killing intent of these slaughterers had already been obliterated. But what about her? His body was covered in cuts and bruises, but his eyes were shockingly bright. There was only an indomitable determination. He did not have the slightest intention to retreat. Muyan shook her head again and clenched the sword chi that was almost impossible to condense in her hand. She would not retreat. She wouldn't let go of any opportunity to become stronger. She didn't want to become the same weakling from her previous life who could be trampled upon, who couldn't even protect her own son. Chapter 2030. She wanted to be her own master. She wanted to protect the people she cared about. She wanted to be qualified to stand by Di Mingju's side. She wanted to protect her most important treasure in this world. She didn't want to let him get hurt. On the reincarnation square, many soldiers of Liangchun army were crying. At this moment, they really wanted to rush in and take the place of the person they respected. Xiao Bao's icy blue eyes were already red. His little body was trembling. If he could find the entrance to the nourishing space, he would have already rushed in. Mother suffered such a serious injury. It must be very painful. Why wasn't Xiao Bao by her side? Why couldn't he protect Mother? Tears fell from his big eyes. Suddenly, a hand pressed on the top of his head and rubbed it gently. Little junior sister's talent surpasses everyone else's, but how many people know exactly how hard she works? Xiao Bao turned around. His tearful eyes met Chu Moli's gentle gaze. 3rd martial uncle. Xiao Bao looked up and saw Yun Ruhan, Qin Jiu, Leng Yuma, Ling Yuxing, and Luo Yu. The disciples of the Xiao Yao sect were all here. In fact, they didn't know that Luo Yunxiao was also quietly watching the scene in the realm of inheritance in the dreamy cloud lake. Her eyes were as deep as an abyss, but there were faint waves in them. Yun Ruhan sighed softly. The sword energy in the blood slaughter sword formation left by junior martial uncle is twice as much as ours. Leng Yuma squatted down and gently wiped the tears off Xiao Bao's face. No matter what the opportunity is, as long as it can make her stronger, she won't let it go. If she can't catch it, she won't force it. But if she catches it, she won't let it go. Luo Yu smiled mischievously. Xiao Bao, you should know that your mother, my 6th senior sister, is someone who will continue to get stronger and grow. She will eventually stand at the peak. She isn't someone who needs other people's protection to survive. Xiao Bao looked at them blankly, as if he didn't understand. But the obsession in his heart, as well as the heart-wrenching pain and unwillingness, slowly disappeared. There was only one thought left in his mind. His mother was so strong, he must also become stronger. Xiao Bao wiped his tears with his sleeve and said in a muffled voice, "But Mother is in trouble now. I want to help her." The people of the Xiao Yao sect sighed. Yes, they all knew that their little junior sister had fallen into a desperate situation, but they had no choice. The only thing he could do was probably to pray that junior sister would succeed, right? Leng Yuma said casually. However, Xiao Bao seemed to have understood. His little face turned serious, and he clenched his fists tightly. He closed his eyes and said, "Mother will succeed. She will definitely succeed." The people of the Xiaoyao sect were speechless, but they couldn't help but clasp their hands and whisper, "Junior sister, you must succeed." They didn't know if their voices were heard by other people in the reincarnation square. Someone else started to chant, "Yiliang Chen, hold on a little longer. You will get the inheritance of the king of herbs." Slowly, the entire Liangchen army in the square started praying with tears in their eyes. The spiritual plant in God Ye's hands. No matter what you are, hurry up and bear fruit. God Yi, you must obtain the king of medicine's inheritance. From Liang Chen's army to the upper, middle, and lower districts, everyone on the reincarnation square. At this moment, there was only one thought in everyone's mind. God Yi, she is worthy of the king of medicine's inheritance. So, if there are any gods or Buddhas, then please bless God Ye's success. Chapter 2031. In the inheritance space, the 100 golden core cultivators that had reappeared did not attack again. Instead, they looked at each other, and then at the girl who was no longer in human form, but was unwilling to fall down. Suddenly, someone threw the weapon in his hand to the ground. Damn it, what kind of stupid test is this? Is there anyone who tortures people like this? Didn't they say that you can grow this stupid flower with blood chi, evil chi, and spiritual power? Why is there no result yet? Are you going to fucking exhaust God Ye's life before you're satisfied? What lousy medicine king. What lousy inheritance.
What was so good about it?
Almighty Yi, can't we just give it up? Someone suddenly points a sword at the blood-red flower in Mayan's hand. What kind of lousy flower is this? Hurry up and finish it for me. That's right, hurry up and finish it. It's time to pass the nourishing object stage. The king of medicine's inheritance belongs to our God Yi. 100 people started cursing in a disorderly manner. In the end, they began to shout in unison, "End it. If you don't end it, I'll kill you." At this time, Mu Yan can no longer hear the sound, nor can she see everything in front of her. A distant and mournful voice faintly sounded in her ears. It sounded like a chant or a murmur. "Resurrection Lily, Resurrection Soul. Drink your blood, devour your soul. Condense your baleful chi, take your life." The red spider lily bloomed, and the obsession was born. The flower of the other shore withered, and the yellow springs fell. Mayan suddenly opens her eyes and looks at the bright red flower in her hand. 2 clear terms appeared in his mind. Spider lily, yellow spring fruit. This spirit plant was going to grow a yellow springs fruit. As soon as this thought fell, Mu Yan felt her vision go black, and she directly fell down. God Yi. Oh no. God Yi really can't hold on any longer. Great God, Yi paid such a huge price. Is he really going to fail the last stage of the king of medicine's inheritance? Regardless of whether it was the inheritance space or the rebirth square, they were all in a mess. Especially when the inheritance space began to tremble, it caused everyone to feel despair. Did great God Yi fail to obtain the king of medicine's inheritance in the end?
Why?
Why? Guru Yi was already so outstanding, so why didn't he get King Yaowang's recognition? While everyone was filled with hatred and heartache, they didn't notice that specks of white starlight were seeping into the space from all directions. Some of the starlight was emitted by the 100 cultivators, and some of the starlight came from the 100 cultivators. The inheritance space was collapsing more and more. Just when everyone thought that the Medicine King's inheritance would be completely closed suddenly, the blood-red spirit plant swayed slightly, and its petals began to fall off one by one. That's right, it wasn't withering, but it was floating in the air after falling off. When all the petals fell, a sparkling and translucent fruit slowly condensed in the center. Everyone was stunned by this scene. He did not understand what this meant. The next moment, the entire King of Medicine's inheritance space shattered, and the light screen on the plaza also disappeared. The heaven ruins shook and earth. Heaven. The heave. Of the heaven. Of the sky other world. Harboring the heart of saving the world, concocting a pill that defies the heavens and changes fate, seizing the soul of the king of hell. This is the sacred ancestor Medicine King. Yoth King of King Other Inherit King. Inheritance of King King. Other of Medicine of Saint Ancest King is King Inheritance. The one who obtained the King of Medicine's inheritance is Lil Tion didn't finish. The light of the rebirth square disappeared. Chapter 2032. It's just that this time, it's not an image, but a line of glittering, incomparably conspicuous words. Congratulations to Tianguang Ruins Special Class user Yi Liangchen for becoming the only successor of the sacred ancestor Medicine King. Then, the entire Tianguang Ruins is suddenly filled with countless explosions of fireworks. The bright light blinds everyone's eyes. And in the sky above the upper, middle, and lower districts of Tianguang Ruins, as well as the Barren District, this line of big words appears. Congratulations to Tianguang Ruins Special Class user Yi Liangchen for becoming the only successor of the sacred ancestor Medicine King. Little Tion's voice pauses for a moment, and then suddenly rises. The person who obtained the Medicine King's inheritance is Yi Liangchen. Tianguang Ruins is deathly silent. Muyan drags her head that feels like it's splitting apart, looking up to see the glittering big words hanging above her head. The corner of her mouth twitches fiercely. Little Tion's taste is really getting more and more strange. First host, you're really great. Little Tion's excited voice reaches her ears. When the Medicine King's inheritance was set up, Little Tion seems to have heard that it's 100% impossible for anyone to pass, but you really obtained the inheritance. You're really worthy of being the first host. 100% impossible for anyone to pass? Muyan presses her dizzy head, puzzled. Why did Medicine King set the assessment to be 100% impossible? Is he really looking for a successor? In fact, these 3 checkpoints. Everything has a certain chance to pass. When it comes to the mind's eye, it's already very abnormal. If Muyan didn't happen to see the incomplete formation, she would have died. As for nourishing things, that's the most desperate of desperate situations. Until now, Muyan still doesn't know how she finally passed this checkpoint. Little Tion says, at that time Little Tion didn't understand a lot of things, so I didn't understand a lot of the words and I didn't remember them. Or, in other words, a part of the information has been erased. Muyan shakes her head. In any case, she has obtained the Medicine King's inheritance. That's not right. She has become the Medicine King's successor, but what about the inheritance? She didn't see anything? Little Tion, where's my Medicine King's inheritance? Is it an ancient book or a jade slip? Little Tion, none of them. First host in a while. Wait a minute. First host. Why, you seem to be about to level up?
What?
Muyan was confused. Upgrade? What upgrade? Little Tion's mechanical voice became urgent. It's too late, first host. You have to leave Tianguang Ruins quickly. Before the upgrade is completed, you can no longer enter the Tianguang Ruins. Wait a minute, can you explain yourself? What level should I upgrade to? And my legend of the Medicine King. Before Muyan could finish her sentence, she felt her vision go dark. The scenery of the barren area disappeared. When she opened her eyes again, she was already in the sleeping quarters of Tianling Palace. Muyan sat in a daze for a good while. She suddenly woke up and tried to enter the Tianguang Ruins. However, she discovered that this time, she was actually unable to enter. Shit. So she had gone through so much hardship to pass the King of Medicine's inheritance? Not only did they not get anything, but they couldn't even enter the Tianguang Ruins. Xiaoxian Continent.
Boom.
A loud noise resounded in the center of the polar domain, the Imperial City. Then, in the depths of the Imperial City that was shrouded in fog, something rose into the air. It let out a buzzing sound, and then slowly fell down. The people who stayed behind to guard the polar domain's Imperial City jumped in fright, looking at the horizon in astonishment. One after another, they discussed what it was. Chapter 2033. Han Yi, who's changing shifts to stay behind in the Imperial City, hears the commotion and comes out. Seeing something rise and fall, his feet stagger, and he almost falls down from the palace. Someone passed the Medicine King's inheritance. It's fine that such an abnormal Medicine King's inheritance was discovered, but there's actually someone who passed the assessment? This, how is this possible? Even Ingmei, who had always been cold and indifferent, revealed a surprised expression. Others don't know the contents of the Medicine King's inheritance, but in the polar domain, Deming Ju's confidants more or less know a little. That's an assessment that he doesn't want anyone to pass. Don't look at Senior Medicine King's tough talk. In fact, so many years have passed, and he's long since given up hope. He didn't expect that someone would actually pass today. Elder Chong will definitely be very happy, right? But a certain someone Ingmei looks at Han Yi with a smile that's not a smile. This time, are you going to change your name to Yihan? Han Ye's expression stiffens. He was just casually saying it at the time. How could he have thought that someone would actually pass that abnormal Medicine King's inheritance assessment? However, Han Ye's expression only turns unsightly for a moment. Then he immediately smiles and looks at Ingmei. I think the name Yihan isn't bad. Our daughter will be called Yi Xing in the future. Ingmei's expression turns sluggish for a moment. Then he flies into a rage out of humiliation and ruthlessly kicks out. Who's going to be your daughter? Han Yi flies 2 steps back from the kick, but he smiles even more like an idiot. Then a son is fine too. The son will be called Ye Chun. Ingmei has the heart to still get angry, but facing Han Ye's silly smile, he can't help but reveal a smile at the corners of his mouth, smiling like an idiot. As the two are messing around, they see a figure swiftly flying over from afar, but he doesn't enter the Imperial City. Instead, he flies directly in the direction of the Medicine King Hall. It's Elder Chong. Ingmei says softly, there's hope for Senior Medicine King. The happiest must be Elder Chong. As soon as Elder Chong enters the Medicine King Hall, he rushes in shouting, Little Joe, I just saw the light of the Heaven Void Cauldron in the Polar Domain's northern frontier. It's the Medicine King's inheritance. Someone passed the Medicine King's inheritance, right? Elder Chang's voice can't stop trembling, even carrying a trace of hoarseness from excitement. 1,000 years, a whole 1,000 years. He thought that there was no hope for little Nine in this lifetime. He didn't expect that the Xiozhen continent actually had such a shocking and brilliant person. However, Chong Lao hadn't finished sighing when he heard Han Chujius shouting in anger. Bastard! Bastard! I'm so mad!
Ah!
Which bastard is it? Give me back my disciple. Deming Ju, is it you? Yes, it must be you, you bastard. You were afraid that my disciple would surpass you, so you purposely didn't let me come into contact with her. The moment Elder Chong saw, the entire Medicine King Hall was smashed into smithereens by Han Chujio. Those pills that could be sold at a sky-high price in the Xiaoxian continent were trampled on the ground like mud. As for the sacred artifact, the Heaven Void Cauldron, it was treated as a rubbish bin, and a large pile of debris was thrown into it. The corner of Elder Chang's mouth twitched. What was going on? Shouldn't he be happy that he had found a disciple? Who provoked this ancestor again? Cough, cough. Little Nine, shut up. Is the monarch someone you can casually slander? What the hell is going on? Han Chujio's eyes glared over fiercely, overbearing and threatening with killing intent. However, when Elder Chong met those eyes, he almost burst out laughing. Chapter 2034. Han Chujia's appearance right now, with apricot eyes and peach cheeks, a cute round face, and a fierce baby face. She doesn't look imposing at all. With great difficulty, Elder Chong said, the Heaven Void Cauldron temporarily broke through its shackles. That means that someone managed to imitate the Yellow Springs fruit. Isn't that a good thing? Little Nine, you finally have the chance to break the curse. By the way, who is your disciple? He was really curious as to how such a heaven-defying monster could exist in the cultivation continent. He could even grow the Yellow Springs fruit. However, when she heard his words, Han Chujio became even more furious. How would I know who my disciple is? I can't sense anyone in the inheritance space at all. Elder Chong was stunned. What do you mean? Han Chujio angrily said, My apprentice didn't wait for me in the inheritance space. Tell me, could it be that the people of your polar domain are up to something? They're afraid that my precious apprentice will retaliate against Di Mingju in the future, so they deliberately plotted against him. The corner of Elder Chang's mouth twitched. Little Gio was so unreliable. Could he be any more unreasonable? Recently, the northern border's barrier had weakened, and the poltergeist ghosts had invaded. The Emperor didn't even have time to chase after his wife. The entire polar domain was busy, so who would have the time to plot against his disciple? Ahem. Elder Chan coughed lightly. Could it be that the person who received the inheritance isn't interested in becoming the successor of the Medicine King? When these words came out, Han Chujia's facial expression instantly became sluggish, and her eyes were full of disbelief. Elder Chan coughed softly again. Don't tell me you've never considered this possibility? Ahem. Maybe the person who inherited your heritage is a combat cultivator, and he doesn't want to be a medicine king. No. But. Yes. Han Chuzhou shouted and fiercely interrupted Chong Lao. I am the king of medicine, the only king of medicine in this world. Why does he despise me? There is no one in this world who doesn't want to be Han Chujia's disciple. It must be the people of your polar domain. They're afraid that my precious apprentice is more powerful than Di Mingju, so they're deliberately suppressing me. Old Chong was having a headache. As soon as she saw the Heaven Void Cauldron, she ran over, wanting to hug Little Nine and cry. She wanted to comfort him that she was truly an idiot who had finally been freed from all these years of pain. Little Nine's focus was on whether or not he could be normal for once. He sighed and said, How could the Emperor suppress your disciple? Forget it. Even if he doesn't want to accept the inheritance, he still has to transcend the tribulation and ascend, right? Now that a trace of your primordial spirit has been branded in her sea of consciousness, as long as she ascends to the Xiaoxian continent, without the space barrier, you'll be able to sense her. Besides, have you ever thought of another possibility? The 3 stages of the Medicine King's inheritance are not easy to pass. Perhaps your precious disciple has passed the 3 stages, but suffered heavy injuries and is currently recuperating? You're already a few thousand years old. Can't you be more mature? Han Chujia's face immediately changed from anger to surprise. Yes, my disciple must have been injured. He must be sleeping now. If my disciple knew that he could become my sacred ancestor Medicine King's disciple, he would definitely be overjoyed. How could he possibly despise it? By the way, what gift should I prepare for my disciple? Restoration pill? Not good. It's too embarrassing. The dust-removing pill was still the best. But the inheritance space doesn't seem to be able to give out pills. Damn it, spatial barriers are so annoying. Then, I have to prepare a few sets of alchemy techniques. Chong Lao stared at the round-faced youngster with a dumbfounded expression. From a moment ago, he was furious, but now, he was so excited that he couldn't sit still. Chapter 2035. Rummaging around in the Medicine King Hall, wishing that he could dig out all of the treasures and give them to his disciple. Elder Chong watched for a while and could not resist laughing in spite of himself. Following that, he shook his head and turned around to leave the Medicine King Hall. That's great. After so many years, he finally saw in Little Nine's eyes a true life force. He did not know who had become Little Nine's only disciple. He really hoped that he could quickly come up and bring Little Nine out of the quagmire of hell. Mayan, who had painstakingly obtained the Medicine King's inheritance and hadn't even seen the Medicine King's token, was chased out of the Tianguang ruins. Helpless, she could only recuperate from her injuries and sleep. When she woke up, it was already the next night. Mother! As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Xiaobao looking at her nervously, his blue eyes filled with childish admiration and worry. Mu Yan sits up and extends her hand towards him. Xiaobao immediately threw himself into her arms, hugging her tightly and rubbing against her. What's wrong? You look like you haven't seen your mother for a long time. Did I sleep for a long time? Xiaobao didn't say anything. He shook his head in her arms, but he hugged her even tighter. Mian laughs despite herself. She interpreted Xiaobao's actions as her son acting coquettishly. Little junior sister, you didn't sleep for long. It was only 2 days and 1 night. However, because of you, the entire purple cloud realm and even the entire cultivation continent have been turned upside down because of you. Mu Yan blinks. Luo Yu giggled and said, eldest senior brother told us to keep a low profile. In the end, sixth senior sister created a lord of 6 stars. Not only did she blow up the Dragon Ascension Academy 6 times, she even blew up the entire purple cloud realm. With this, it'll be hard for me not to be famous. The result of the Medicine King's inheritance test didn't shock the entire cultivation continent like it did when it was triggered. However, everyone in the Tianguang ruins knew about it. Little Tian almost stuck the words that Yi Liangchen was the successor of the King of Medicine in every corner of the Tianguang ruins. As such, the entire cultivation continent was in an uproar. The other 3 realms were still fine. Most of them were weak, so they had no idea how important the Medicine King's inheritance was and how impossible it was for them to obtain it. But the Ziyun realm was different. In the Ziyun realm, there were many experts who had comprehended the Tao. They had a good understanding of the Xiuxian continent and the sacred ancestor Medicine King. The more he understood just how terrifying the sacred ancestor Medicine King's sole inheritor was, just how covetous of an identity. Mu Yan glanced at the expressionless Yun Ruhan and said guiltily, ahem, it's Yi Liangchen who's famous. It has nothing to do with me. I'm still very low-key. Hearing this, the people of the Xiaoyao sect all wanted to roll their eyes at her. With her little junior sister's troublemaking personality, how could she say that she was low-key? They almost didn't know how to write the word low profile anymore. Mu Yan felt very wronged. She was obviously very low-key at the Dear Cry banquet this time. He didn't steal the limelight, and he didn't hit anyone. Cough, he didn't hit anyone with a gunny sack, so that didn't count. Up until now, the Deer Feast is almost over, but not many people know her, June Mayan's name. Leng Yuma giggled and said, many big shots of the purple cloud world have entered the Tianguang ruins and are offering a reward to confirm Yi Liangchen's identity. Some people even went to the Azure Blue World's 3 academies to inquire about it. But fortunately, we've already informed Dean Meng and the others, and with Xiao's brother Qing helping to cover it up, it definitely won't be easily leaked. Ling Yuxing glared at Leng Yuma. What brother Qing? Brother Qing was naturally Ouyang Qing. That day, he brought Ling Yuxing's parents back to the Hellfire Valley and didn't come to the Dear Cry banquet. Chapter 2036. Ouyang Qing already had a lot of prestige in the Starry School, and with the help of Meng Baichuan and the other clan leaders, it was not difficult to hide Yi Liangchen's identity. Mu Yan heaved a sigh of relief. Right, what is the Medicine King's inheritance like? What about the legendary Medicine King token? What does it look like? If you take it out, you can command all the alchemists in the world, and no one would dare to disobey you. The people of the Xiaoyao school asked all at once. They were also very curious about how magical the inheritance that everyone coveted was. Mu Yan's face fell. I don't know either. You don't know? I have never seen the Medicine King token. When I was unconscious, I felt something fly into my body, but I could not see it clearly. I was kicked out of the Tianguang ruins before I could get the inheritance.
What?
Kicked out of the Tianguang ruins?
Why?
Mu Yan was about to answer when the Tianling Palace shook violently. Then, a strong and familiar aura came from afar. In the air, the sky demon zither hummed. Then came Qi Huang's excited voice. Mysterious Heaven Orb. It's the aura of the Mysterious Heaven Orb. The Mysterious Heaven Orb is about to be formed. Almost as soon as Qi Huang finished speaking, an old voice came from the sky. It was the spirit of the 6 Stars Tower. 3 days until the Mysterious Heaven Orb is formed. The Chaotic Tower will open now. Lord of 6 stars, Yi Liangchen, please come. Lord of 6 stars, Yi Liangchen, please come. Mu Yan's eyes brightened. The mysterious heaven orb is formed. Did this mean that her sky demon zither could be repaired for the second time? Dinghua Marquis residence. In a cave in the backyard, a stone door opened slowly. A figure covered in blood was thrown out mercilessly from inside. Chu Tianyu opened his eyes, only to see a mess of flesh and blood. He breathed softly and felt a bone-piercing pain all over his body. These 2 days and 2 nights of hellish punishment, or rather, torture, made him want to die every second. However, he knew that if he failed this time, what awaited him was an ending that was 100 times more miserable than death. You really disappoint me. Suddenly, a gloved hand slowly touched his bloodied face. Lord of 6 stars? You can't have her. You won't be able to snatch the profound heaven pearl. The Medicine King's inheritance was so close, but it was taken away by Yi Liangchen. You're so useless. Why should I keep you alive? What's the point of keeping your mother? Chu Tianyu suddenly raised his head, tears of blood rolling down his cheeks. Father, I beg you, don't hurt my mother. I'm willing to find the most precious treasure in the world for you. I'm willing to do anything for you. Just let my mother go. Was Chu Tianyu afraid of death? Of course he was afraid. They were especially afraid that they would end up like their half-brothers and half-sisters. However, compared to death, he was more afraid that his mother, the wife of the Dinghua Marquis, would be tortured to death by this terrible man. Chu Xinyan stood up and looked down at his son, who was crying and begging like a dog. Letting out a cold laugh, he suddenly lifted his foot and ruthlessly stepped on his head. His actions were rough and cruel, but his words were incomparably gentle. This is the last chance I'm giving you. This is your last chance to obtain the mysterious heaven orb. If you can't even grasp this opportunity, then don't blame your father for letting you accompany your brothers and sisters. Of course, your mother will also accompany you. Chapter 2037. Chu Tianyu said with a trembling voice, Mysterious heaven pearl? It's Yi Liangchen's. I can't get it at all. Chu Xinyan chuckled again. Yes, it's Yi Liangchen's. And you are Yi Liangchen. Purple Cloud Realm, Dragon Soaring Academy's highest meeting hall, Treasure Light Hall. At this moment, almost all the leaders of Dragon Soaring Academy were gathered here. Dean Zhou Daoi, Vice Dean Chu Zongxing, Vice Dean Yu Xinjian, the Sun, Moon, and Star Supremacies, as well as the 9 elders of the Elder Council. Only the number 1 expert of the Academy, Vice Dean Kong Yuanjiu, was absent due to seclusion. Everyone was frowning, and there seemed to be worry in their eyes. Zhou Daoi glanced at everyone present, then said in a low voice, Everyone should know why all of you are gathered here today. Mysterious Heaven Pearl. Someone said softly. That's right. Zhou Daoi immediately said, I believe everyone still remembers that there is an iron law left behind in Dragon Soaring Academy. The Emperor's decree cannot be disobeyed. The Emperor's most important instruction is to take care of the mysterious Heaven Pearl and Chaotic Tower and give them to the Lord of 6 stars. Many people present frowned, and their eyes revealed a trace of greed and unwillingness. But when they thought of the legend of the Emperor and the great formation in Divine Elephant City, they suppressed the greed in their hearts. The mysterious Heaven Pearl and Chaotic Tower were precious, but they needed to be alive to enjoy them. But the problem now is that the Lord of 6 stars, Yi Liangchen, has yet to appear. Vice Dean Zhu frowned. We once sent people to Tianguang Ruins to contact her, but we didn't expect to run into the Herbalist King's inheritance. Initially, I wanted to wait until the King of Herb's inheritance ended before going to look for her. However, I didn't expect that Yap Liangchen would disappear completely after the inheritance ended. Disappeared? Vice Dean Zhu nodded. Yes, she disappeared into thin air. You might not believe it, but there are many people in Yi Liangchen's army who can communicate with her. But now, they can't even find Yi Liangchen's name in the communication list. Yi Liangchen's army is going crazy. If it wasn't for congratulations to Tianguang Ruin's special class user, Yi Liangchen, for becoming the sole successor of the sacred ancestor Medicine King. With the name of Tianguang Chief of the Golden Age still hanging in Tianguang Ruins, everyone thought that Yap Liangchen didn't exist anymore. Zhou Daoi also frowned.
What's going on?
Could it be that Yap Liangchen was severely injured in the inheritance space? Many people in Tianguang Ruins had seen her self-destructing her primordial spirit when she was breaking through the nourishing objects barrier, leaving her covered in wounds. He might have already fallen into a coma. But the problem is that the profound heaven orb will be condensed in 3 days, and we don't even know who Yi Liangchen is. At that time, who should I give the profound heaven orb to? Vice Principal Yu Tsunjian, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Recently, there has been a rumor in the Divine Elephant City." "What rumor?" After a pause, Yu Tsunjian said, "Now, many people suspect that Yi Liangchen is Chu Tianyu from our Dragon Soaring Academy."
What?
That's impossible, right? Qi Xing, one of the Sun, Moon, and Star Venerables, immediately shook his head and said, "That's impossible. One must know that Yi Liangchen first appeared in the Azure Blue Realm. But Chu Tianyu is a native cultivator of the Purple Cloud Realm, the son of the Dingwa Marquis. He probably hasn't even been to a small place like the Azure Blue Realm. How could Chu Tianyu be Yi Liangchen?" Chapter 2038. Many people nodded at Qi Xing's words, but some of them were deep in thought. Elder Song, one of the 9 elders, chuckled. "Haha, I think he did. Did you forget that last year, Chu Tianyu applied to go out for training? He was gone for several months. That time coincided with Yi Liangchen's appearance in the Azure Blue Realm." "You mean Chu Tianyu went to the Azure Blue Realm during his training? Can anyone prove it?" Elder Song stroked his beard and said casually, "When I heard the rumor, I immediately went to Chu Tianyu's bodyguard to verify it. He told me that Chu Tianyu did go to the Azure Blue Realm during those months. He was looking for a rare spiritual plant for the Dingwa Marquis, which happened to grow in the Danyang mountain range." At this moment, everyone in the room could no longer remain calm. Zhou Daoi asked, "Where is Chu Tianyu? Go and get him." Yu Tsunjin shook his head and said, "I haven't seen him since 3 days ago. I asked his manservant, but the manservant hemmed and hawed and refused to tell me. He only said that the prince suffered some minor injuries and had to undergo closed-door training." That's it. That's it. Several elders of the Sky Court stood up and slapped the table. "I knew it. How could such a monster come from the tiny Azure Blue Realm? How could he defeat all the elites of the Dragon Soaring Academy? Haha, it turns out that the Lord of 6 Stars is the brightest genius of the Dragon Soaring Academy." Everyone in the room looked gratified. Their nervousness and unwillingness had disappeared without a trace. In fact, the teachers and students of the Dragon Soaring Academy had been very sullen these days. The 6 lists of the Dragon Soaring Academy, which represented the highest combat strength of the students, had been slaughtered. Moreover, it was a nameless cultivator from the mortal world. How could the students of the Dragon Soaring Academy, who had always been high and mighty, show their faces? Now that they knew that the person who slaughtered the 6 lists became the Lord of 6 Stars and obtained the Dragon Soaring Academy's supreme treasure was their genius, they were naturally overjoyed. This meant that the Dragon Soaring Academy was still powerful, the leader of all academies, and could suppress a small place like the Azure Blue Realm. But there were also a few people who looked surprised. For example, the Vice Deans, the Sun, Moon, and Star Venerables. Chiri murmured softly, "But why do I remember that when Chu Tianyu went to train, he went west? That place isn't." He did not finish his sentence. Yu Tsunjian interrupted him abruptly. "Moreover, I believe that Chu Tianyu is Yi Liangchen, and there is one more important piece of evidence." When the Lord of 6 Stars arrived, everyone hurried to the 6-star pagoda, only to see Chu Tianyu emerge.
But he didn't admit it at that time.
That's because Tianyu keeps a low profile. Elder Song looked gratified. After this child entered the Dragon Ascension Academy, I taught him personally. He is the most talented person I have ever seen. Fighting, alchemy, talismans, he is proficient in all of them. However, despite having such talent, he had always been low-key and humble, never showing off. I think it's because of his personality that he changed his name to Yap Liangchen. As he spoke, he looked at the three venerables with a faint smile. Moreover, compared to letting a kid who has nothing to do with the Dragon Soaring Academy become the Lord of 6 Stars and humiliate us, shouldn't we be happier that Chu Tianyu won this honor? Venerables, what do you think? Everyone nodded simultaneously. Chapter 2039. Most people had already concluded that Chu Tianyu was Yi Liangchen. The three venerables were suspicious, but they didn't say anything. Yu Tsunjin smiled. I heard that Chu Tianyu has woken up today, and his injuries are not a problem. We just need to wait for him to claim the Xiantian orb 3 days later. In an inn in the Divine Elephant City. Have you heard? Yi Liangchen's real identity is actually Chu Tianyu from the Dragon Soaring Academy.
Huh.
Isn't Yi Liangchen a woman? Stupid. That's just a cover. You forgot that Tianguang ruins can change one's appearance and gender. Who has seen Yi Liangchen's real face? Who can guarantee that Yi Liangchen is a man or a woman? In my opinion, female cultivators are naturally inferior to male cultivators. There are only a few men like Yi Liangchen. How can he be a woman? Haha, I was wondering how the Azure Blue Realm could have such a genius. So Yi Liangchen is the senior brother Chu that I admire. No wonder. Senior brother Chu, how can you be so powerful? I love you so much. The cultivators from the Azure Blue Realm in the inn couldn't take it anymore. Bullshit. Yi Liangchen is from the Azure Blue Realm. The entire Azure Blue Realm knows that. You are so despicable. Saying that Yi Liangchen is Chu Tianyu is just bullshit. The Starry School students were so angry that their faces turned red. Yi Liangchen is from the Starry School. I have seen Yi Liangchen outside the Linglong Tower. Chu Tianyu's figure is completely different from Yi Liangchen. Don't boast. Haha, you said that Yi Liangchen is from the Azure Blue Realm. If you can, ask her to come out and talk. If she can't, then Yi Liangchen is from the Purple Cloud Realm. Outside the inn, a group of people were blushing and arguing. Lung Yuma and Luo Yu, who were about to enter the inn to eat, looked at each other and smiled dangerously. Chu Tianyu is Yi Liangchen? Haha, are you kidding me? There was actually someone who dared to pretend to be their junior sister. They must be tired of living. 2 days passed quickly. There were only 16 hours left until the profound heaven orb was completely condensed. At this time, all the instructors of the Dragon Soaring Academy had gathered under the Chaotic Tower. When the Lord of 6 Stars was born, the Chaotic Tower was formed from the light gathered from the 6 directions of the Dragon Ascension Academy. This was a divine equipment, and it was even more precious than the 6 Stars Pagoda. Originally, the Chaotic Pagoda was floating high up in the sky. But as the profound heaven orb slowly condensed, the Chaotic Pagoda descended lower and lower. At this time, it was only 1 meter away from the ground. The originally tightly shut doors of the Chaotic Tower had long since been opened 2 days ago. It was filled with dense spiritual energy, as well as an oppressive aura. Such a treasured land was something that all cultivators couldn't help but covet. However, at this moment, the people present could no longer be bothered to exclaim at the preciousness of the Chaotic Tower. Zhou Daoi looked at the door nervously. Who was this Yi Liangchen who had suddenly appeared a month ago and swept the soaring dragon list to become the successor of the Herb King? Was his veil finally going to be lifted today? Just as Zhang Xian was deep in thought, an aura suddenly approached the Chaotic Tower. The vice deans shouted in a low voice, "The Chaotic Tower is a holy land. No one is allowed to barge in." Who is it? The outside was silent for a moment. Then a low and hoarse male voice sounded. Yi Liangchen. Add to bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2040.
Swish.
Everyone in the tower stood up and stared at the door. Yu Tsunjian and Elder Song were the only ones who were not worried at all. Soon, they saw a tall young man walk into the chaotic tower. The young man was handsome and graceful, but his face was as pale as a piece of paper. Obviously, he had not recovered from his serious injuries. Seeing him, the mentors of the Soaring Dragon Academy beamed with joy. Chu Tianyu. It's really you. You really are Yangchen. Chu Tianyu bowed slightly. I'm sorry that I've caused trouble for you, mentors. I've defeated the 6 roles of the Soaring Dragon Academy and obtained the inheritance of the King Pharmacist.
Ha ha ha.
Yu Tsunjian laughed. Your achievements are for the glory of the Soaring Dragon Academy. How can you say that you're causing trouble? Right. You're the Lord of 6 stars and the heir of the King Pharmacist. The entire Soaring Dragon Academy is proud of you. Chu Tianyu lowered his eyes to hide the shame in them. Yi Yangchen, I'm sorry. I had no choice. The Dark Heaven Orb is the last hope of my mother and me. Even if I have to impersonate you, even if I have to become a shameless villain, I must get it. Elder Song stood up and patted Chu Tianyu's shoulder.
Good job.
You didn't let the Purple Cloud Realm be suppressed by those good-for-nothings from the Azure Blue Realm. Let's go. I'll take you to the top floor to get the Dark Heaven Orb. Chiri frowned. The Dark Heaven Orb hasn't been condensed yet. That's nothing. Elder Song didn't care. Let Tianyu wait there. We'll take it when it's condensed. The Vice Deans hesitated and asked, don't we need to verify Yi Liangchen's identity? Tianyu, where's your herb token? As soon as he said that, everyone present was stunned for a moment. Yu Tsunjian forced a smile. What's there to verify? So many days have passed, and Chu Tianyu is the only one who has come to collect the Dark Heaven Orb. This time, Zhou Daoi looked at Chu Tianyu. Do you have the herb token? A trace of panic flashed across Chu Tianyu's eyes. He cleared his throat and said, Dean, the herb token is actually illusory. I can't take it out. Illusory? Yes, that's also possible. Elder Song said loudly, the king of medicine is from the Xiuxian continent. The people there all use the methods of the gods. They say it's the king of medicine token, but it might just be a divine soul imprint. Plus, is it that easy to impersonate Yap Liangchen? If it wasn't for God's blessing, who else could be as good as Yap Liangchen? Even if others wanted to impersonate her, they would have to consider whether they have the ability to be blessed by the heavens. Zhou Daoi frowned and finally waved his hand. However, before he could say anything, a voice came out of his mouth. He felt a few auras shooting toward him. The Vice Deans were about to sternly warn the unrelated people to stay away. Who knew that the newcomer's speed was shockingly fast, and in the blink of an eye, he had already rushed through the door. Everyone was startled. When they saw who it was, they were shocked. Vice Principal Zhu immediately frowned and said, You are from the Carefree Squad?
How dare you?
Didn't you hear the Flying Dragon City's announcement that unrelated people were not allowed to approach the Chaotic Tower? Why are you still here? Ling Yuxing smiled. I'm not a nobody. Vice Principal Zhu revealed a suspicious look. However, before he could ask anything, another figure suddenly appeared. Go out? Aren't you guys looking for Yap Liangchen? Lung Yuma swaggered in with a long blade on her back. Plus, this chaotic tower seems to belong to Yap Liangchen, right? Why do you want us to go out? Chapter 2041. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. You're Yap Liangchen.
Me?
Of course. I'm not Yap Liangchen. Lung Yuma grinned, revealing her white teeth. I'm opening the way for God Yap Liangchen. What the hell? Opening the way. The Vice Deans were speechless. Chu Tianyu's pupils constricted as he stared at the door. Right at this time, a few more figures shot towards the outside of the chaotic pagoda, swaggering in. Yun Ruhan, Qinjiu, Chu Moli, and Luo Yu were all present except for Mayan. The moment Luo Yu entered, she yelled, I heard that someone is pretending to be Yap Liangchen. I was wondering who it was that was so shameless. Turning to Chu Tianyu, She sneered. So, it's the leader of the Qilin team. Wasn't it enough that you pretended to be Yap Liangchen the last time? I heard that you're representing the Dragon Ascension Academy. So, the Academy's reputation is thicker than the city walls. Chu Tianyou's face darkened. You said that I'm not Yap Liangchen.
Are you?
Hee, I'm not Yap Liangchen. Luo Yu laughed. I'm here to open the way for God Yap Liangchen. Yun Rohan looked at everyone and said slowly, We're not Yap Liangchen. We're here to open the way for him. What the hell? Open the way again? The teachers and deans of the Dragon Ascension Academy were stunned. Yu Tsunjian said coldly, You're here to open the way for Yap Liangchen? Do you know who Yap Liangchen is? And you're just spouting nonsense here? TCH, we don't know.
Do you?
Luo Yu sneered. In the Divine Elephant City, everyone knows that every time Yap Liangchen kills someone, it's related to us. If we don't know him, how could it be so coincidental? These words caused many people to ponder deeply, especially the three venerables of Sun Moon, who were in charge of the Deer Cry Banquet. They agreed with Luo Yu. The vice deans asked, Then, who do you think Yap Liangchen is? Before he could finish his words, Elder Song interrupted him sternly. Vice Principal Zhu, stop listening to their nonsense and trying to claim connections with us. A few small fries from the Azure Blue world came here to swindle our Dragon Soar Academy's most precious treasure with a few irresponsible words. Do you really believe them? Qixing said, I'm just asking them who Yap Liangchen is and verifying it. Is it wrong? His words were once again interrupted by Yu Tsunjian, who looked at Zhou Daoi and said, Dean, please think it over. Who didn't know that the mysterious Heaven Orb and Chaotic Tower were supreme treasures? Naturally, there were many who coveted them. Do you want to give it to those outsiders who have ulterior motives and fabricate lies, or to give it to our Dragon Soaring Academy's own people? You must think carefully.
What?
Open the way for Yi Liangchen? You really believe that? They are clearly in cahoots with each other, deliberately mystifying things, wanting to swindle the profound heaven bead. Zhou Daoi frowned slightly, his expression grave. Right at this moment, a clear and tender voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. Devour, I'm also here to clear the path for Yi Liangchen. Could it be that I'm also colluding with them to swindle the profound heaven orb? Everyone was shocked and looked towards the door in unison. When they saw who it was, their expressions changed instantly, and they bowed in greeting. Greetings, Your 11th Highness. Greetings, Lord Lanfeng. A youth of about 12 or 13 years old, dressed in brocade clothes, slowly walked into the chaotic palace. Chapter 2042. He was the Lan imperial family's 11th prince, Lan Huahong, and the only legitimate son of the Lan imperial family's emperor and empress. Following behind Lan Huahong was naturally Lan Feng. When he first went to the Azure Blue world, Lan Feng had already reached the peak of the nascent soul realm. On top of that, he had made a breakthrough to the leaving aperture realm. Even though he had retracted his aura, it was still powerful. Zhou Daoi said respectfully, May I know what the 11th prince's orders are? Lan Huahong glanced at them. Didn't you hear me? I have already said that I am here to open the path for Yi Liangchen.
What?
Another one, opening the path. The corner of Zhou Daoi's mouth twitched. 11th prince, do you know who Yap Liangchen is? Lan Huahong, of course I know. That's my boss's mother. I also know. He suddenly raised his hand and pointed at Chu Tianyu. He is definitely not Yi Liangchen. He actually dared to impersonate the matriarch's identity. He must be tired of living. This time, boss asked him to prove Guru Ye's identity, so he must perform well. Strive to sit firmly on the throne of boss's #1 lackey. Thinking of this, Lan Huahong clenched her fists, raised her chin, and became even more arrogant. Chu Tianyu closed his eyes and slowly raised his head. He asked in a deep voice, If I'm not Yi Liangchen, then who is? Zhou Daoi and the vice deans also said anxiously, Yes, who exactly is Yi Liangchen? I am. A pleasant, heavenly voice suddenly rang in everyone's ears. Then, a snow-white figure slowly walked in from the door. Skin of ice and bones of jade, hair of misty clouds. There was a beautiful woman, elegant and graceful. There was a beauty that he would never forget. For a time, the entire chaotic tower fell into a deathly silence. Even Chu Tianyu was staring at the newcomer in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. Jun Mayan of the Carefree team, the #1 assistant of this dear cry banquet. It wasn't that no one had seen this girl before. However, it wasn't like looking at flowers in a mirror. There was a layer between them so they couldn't see it clearly. In order to comply with Yan Ruhan's wishes, Mu Yan had deliberately kept a low profile and restrained her aura. It made people ignore her appearance. At this moment, when she unleashed her aura, she did not hold back at all. All to devour. Only then did he realize how beautiful this girl was. Even the princess of the Lan dynasty, who is known as the #1 beauty in the eastern continent of the Purple Cloud Realm, couldn't be compared to her. Mayan slowly walks into the main hall and stands in front of everyone. She lightly raises the corners of her mouth, revealing a languid smile that could turn all living things upside down. I'm really sorry to disappoint everyone. I am Yap Liangchen. Deputy Headmaster Zhu said suspiciously. You are the assistant musician of the Xiao Yao team, Jun Mayan? Exactly. The chaotic tower was silent for a moment. Then Elder Song laughed out loud. You said you are Yap Liangchen? Are you kidding me? How dare an assistant musician pretend to be Yap Liangchen? Ha ha ha, do you know who Yap Liangchen is? Do you think that the Dragon Ascension 6 lists, which represent the highest combat power in the Dragon Ascension Academy, can be slaughtered by just anyone? Even the 3 venerables of Sunstar who didn't believe that Chu Tianyu was Yap Liangchen shook their heads. Jun Mayan, stop messing around. If you know the real Yap Liangchen, ask her to come out as soon as possible. The mysterious heaven orb is destined to belong to her. If the other members of the Xiao Yao team say that they are Yap Liangchen, I would still believe them. Chapter 2043. But you, Mu Yan, have a sliver of hope to rank first on the Ganhua rankings. You can't possibly become the Lord of 6 stars? I say you should be more reliable in your lies. Time is of the essence. Let the real Yel Yangchen come out. This time, Mu Yan was a little depressed. Why can't I be the Lord of 6 stars? Did she look that weak? The Sharao sect members couldn't help but laugh. In fact, it was normal for the Soaring Dragon sect members to not believe it. The Soaring Dragon 6 rankings might have support rankings like the Ganhua rankings, but most of them were for combat cultivators. Among the 7 from the Sharao sect, Mu Yan looked young and weak. She was also a support musician who had never displayed her combat ability. Who would believe that such a delicate and beautiful assistant zither player was Yi Liangchen, the Lord of 6 stars who was invincible among all the gold core cultivators in the Purple Cloud Realm? Chu Tianyu took a deep breath and walked towards Mu Yan. He looked at her deeply. Said, you are Yi Liangchen? Do you have the Medicine King token? Mu Yan shrugged. No. Do you have anything that can prove your identities? Mu Yan shook her head. No. She really didn't have anything now. The Clear Sky token and the glass beads she obtained from the Medicine King's inheritance were all stored in the Tianguang Ruins Jade Key. Even the Medicine King token that she hadn't seen yet was probably in the Jade Key. Now that she couldn't enter the Tianguang Ruins and couldn't open the Jade Key, she naturally couldn't take anything out. Chu Tianyu chuckled with a sharp gaze. You don't have anything. What makes you think you are Yi Liangchen? I don't have anything. Do you? Mu Yan raised the corner of her eyes and smiled lazily and evilly. What's more, even if I don't have any proof, I think I finally know something. What is it? When we first met in the Tianguang Ruins, I felt that you looked familiar, but I couldn't remember. Now I finally know. Kiki, I wonder if Senior Chu knows Fuchin? Chu Tianyu's eyes shrank and his expression changed. He subconsciously wanted to step back. There were very few people who knew that he was Fuchin. How did this woman know? Could she really be Yi Liangchen? Chu Tianyu opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Yu Tsunjian suddenly shouted, "What a farce! How could they let an assistant musician pretend to be the Lord of 6 Stars? Do they have no respect for me, Soaring Dragon? Headmaster, don't waste any more words with them. Chase them all out. Don't let them disturb the mysterious Heaven Orb's process of recognizing them as its master. If these people dare to cause trouble again, expel them from Divine Elephant City and the Purple Cloud Realm." Lan Feng's brows furrowed, and he said coldly, "Vice Dean Yu, don't go overboard with your words. Miss June was the savior of the 11th Highness. Her strength is not something you can comment on." Ha ha ha, strength? Playing the zither and showing off? Elder Song laughed heartily. "We have long acknowledged this point. Or do you really think that she's more powerful than Tianyu? Lord Lan, 11th Highness, could it be that you've been smitten by this woman just because she's pretty?" When these words came out, Lan Feng and Lan Huahong flew into a rage. Even Zhou Daoi and the others frowned. But Elder Song and Yu Tsunjian didn't seem to care about the two of them at all. Lan Huahong took a step forward with cold eyes. He suddenly released the prowess of the imperial family. "How dare you!" Chapter 2044. Lan Feng glared fiercely at Elder Song. "Songwei, do you think you can disrespect the royal family just because you're Dinggua's man? Who gave you the courage to speak to the 11th prince like this?" A ferocious glint flashed in Elder Song's eyes. He was about to lose his temper when Yu Tsunjian pulled him back. In the end, he let out a cold snort and said indifferently, Old Song, am a boorish man. My words are unpleasant to hear. I hope that your highness will forgive me. But you want to say that this delicate little girl is the Lord of 6 Stars, Yi Liangchen? Ha, what a joke." Lan Huahong was seething with anger. He wished he could get someone to execute this arrogant person on the spot. However, before he could speak, Mu Yan stretched out her hand and stopped him. "Are you saying that as long as you are strong enough, you can be Yap Liangchen? Then things are very simple. I will fight with senior brother Chu. Whoever wins will be Yi Liangchen. Isn't that it?" She looked at Chu Tianyu with a smile that was not a smile. "Or is it that senior apprentice brother Chu doesn't dare to fight?" Chu Tianyu absent-mindedly raises his head. Looking at Mayan's devastatingly beautiful face, his heart suddenly beats. Not only was he stunned, but he also felt a sense of familiarity and fear that came from his bones. Even if it was a different face, the look in his eyes and the disdainful attitude. He had seen it time and time again in the Tianguang ruins. Yap Liangchen. In this world, only Yap Liangchen had such a look in his eyes. Chu Tianyu suddenly lowered his eyes and coughed lightly. Yu Tsunjian immediately sneered and said, "Everyone in the Tianguang ruins saw that Yap Liangchen's primordial spirit self-detonated when he passed the last test of the King of Medicine's heritage and was severely wounded. You look completely unscathed right now, yet you want to challenge Chu Tianyu, who is yet to recover from his injuries. I really don't know what your intentions are." This time, everyone looks at Mu Yan with even more suspicion. Mu Yan is simply speechless. His primordial spirit self-detonated, and he was heavily injured? Yes, she did detonate her primordial spirit and her sea of consciousness. However, her primordial spirit was as condensed as a mountain, and her sea of consciousness was as vast as the sea. So, what if she self-destructed a little? It didn't affect him at all, okay? He would be fine after resting for 2 or 3 days. But now, it became the proof that he was not Yap Liangchen. Mu Yan almost rolls her eyes. The next moment, she raises her hand, and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. The melodious sound of the zither resounded within the chaotic tower. Countless specks of light landed on Chu Tianyu's body and drilled into his body. Chu Tianyu only felt that his body, which had been tortured to the point of being covered in cuts and bruises, seemed to have a gurgling stream flowing through his body. His damaged divine soul and sea of consciousness healed bit by bit. Even the pain in his mind seemed to have been soothed. When the song ended, Chu Tianyu's face was no longer pale. His weak aura also became incomparably condensed, even stronger and more condensed than before. Peak of Golden Core, only one step away from the nascent soul stage. The mentors of Soaring Dragon were all stunned. Jun Mayan is actually healing Chu Tianyu. Moreover, even if he knew that Jun Mayan was the strongest assistant musician at the Dear Cry banquet, but in the time it took for a song to heal the wound on his divine soul, this isn't his support ability too overpowered. Mayan raises her hand and puts the Tian Mo Chin into her space. She looks at Chu Tianyu with a smile that isn't a smile. Brother Chu, now that there's no excuse, can we fight? Chu Tianyu stared at her in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. Lung Yuma spits, you've been babbling for half a day, but you don't even dare to fight. You still dare to call yourself Yap Liangchen. Before coming here, this old lady had heard that every member of the Soaring Dragon's Qilin team was one of the best heaven's pride in the Ziyun boundary. Now that I see it, if you're not a fucking talker, you're a coward. Chapter 2045. Since Miss Lung looks down on the Qilin team so much, I think there's no need to let Miss June and the team leader fight one-on-one. How about our Qilin team and Carefree team compete? Everyone turned around and saw the 9 members of the Kirin team swaggering in from outside the door. Among these 9 people, some were brimming with fighting spirit, some were brimming with anger, and some were filled with hatred. Xue Huailu, Su Yi, and Chu Yuanlei immediately rushed to Chu Tianyu and said excitedly, Captain, are you really Yi Liangchen? Why didn't you tell us that you were going to slay the Dragon Ascension's 6 roles? Chu Tianyu struggled in his heart for a moment before finally concealing all the guilt and uneasiness. Nothing was more important than his life and his mother's safety. He was Yap Liangchen. Yes, he, Chu Tianyu, was the Lord of 6 Stars, the heir to the Medicine King, Yi Liangchen. Chu Tianyu put his hands behind his back and said indifferently, apologies, I need the profound heaven pearl. Although Xue Huailu was unwilling, when he thought of Chu Tianyu's identity and his hatred for the Carefree Squad, he immediately smiled and said, Senior brother Chu must be joking. You are the captain of our Kirin squad, and your strength is above ours. Becoming the Lord of 6 Stars is only natural. Su Yi's face was filled with flattery. If someone else used me, Su Yi, to climb to the top of the Hue list, I would definitely not accept it. But only you, Captain, are worthy of the title. Even Chu Yuanlei and Duan Wenbin, who had always been unruly, showed reverence for Chu Tianyu. Duan Wenbin already knew that his captain was stronger than him. The only reason he was at the top of the 1,000 average list was because Chu Tianyu had no interest in slaughtering people. The members of the Kirin team congratulated Chu Tianyu one after another. They also felt honored. The fact that the Lord of 6 Stars was the captain of the Qilin squad was proof of how powerful they were. No one in the entire Purple Cloud realm, or even the entire cultivation world, could shake them. Murong Xue was the only one who looked confused. Boss Chu, are you really Yi Liangchen? Chu Tianyu smiled. What? You don't believe me? Or do you think I'm not qualified? No. Murong Xue subconsciously shook her head. Everyone in the Kirin team acknowledged Chu Tianyu's strength. Since Chu Tianyu could become the unquestionable captain of the Kirin team, he naturally had his own beauty. Even though Murong Xue hated vile people like Xue Huailu and Su Yi, she still respected Chu Tianyu. However, she still feels that there's something wrong with this matter. Her gaze subconsciously turns towards Mayan. If she didn't hear wrongly, it was just outside the door. The woman said that she was Yap Liangchen. However, how could such a delicate young girl be Yi Liangchen, who had slaughtered all 6 lists and trampled all the geniuses of Dragon Ascension under her feet? Not even Murong Xue suspected Chu Tianyu, much less the other members of the Kirin squad. This made the instructors of Dragon Soaring Academy even more convinced that Chu Tianyu was Yi Liangchen. Chu Yuanlei walked up to Yun Ruhan and said in a booming voice, Carefree team, I've watched your match against the Fusong team, and I respect your strength. But I, old Chu, will tell you the truth. With your performances, no matter which one of you wants to beat our boss Chu, you're still far from being able to do so. As he spoke, he turned to Mayan, and the trace of admiration in his eyes turned into disdain. Not to mention, she's such a delicate little girl. It's not that I look down on women, and I'm not like those bastards from the Fusang team either. But in the cultivation world, the one with the biggest fist is the last word. Any other flowery words are nothing but nonsense. Chapter 2046. I advise you to admit your mistakes and leave this place as soon as possible. We, the Qilin team, will not bother with you. Otherwise, Yun Rohan had yet to speak. Lung Yuma already sneered. Otherwise what? You want to fight with us? Let's fight. You think we're afraid of your bullshit donkey riding team, horse riding team? That's right. What's the point of talking so much? Luo Yu also shouted loudly. If you want to fight, then fight. Whoever wins is Yi Liangchen. Fourth brother, Shao Qi. Yun Ruhan shouted with a headache. Don't cause trouble. This is a decision that only little junior sister can make. No, I think it's pretty good. Mu Yan said slowly. Don't many people think that even if we win the competition, we won't be able to dominate the Deer Cry Banquet? They also said that the Qilin team will always be the uncrowned king of the Deer Cry Banquet. In my opinion, it's time for someone else to sit on the throne of the uncrowned king. As soon as these words came out, not to mention Xue Huailu and the others who already hated the Carefree team, even Duan Wenbin, Murong Xue, and the others had burning eyes as they stared at Mu Yan aggressively. The members of the Carefree team did not show any weakness and stared back at him. Chu Tianyu slowly stood up straight. At this moment, he no longer had the dispiritedness, guilt, and gloom. What he had was the confidence, pride, and awe-inspiring domineeringness of a strong person. If you want to defeat our Qilin team, your Carefree team is still far from enough. Since you want to humiliate yourselves, then, in an hour, in Flying Dragon City, our two teams will fight it out. Chu Tianyu's gaze swept across the people of the Carefree sect and finally landed on Mu Yan. There are only 7 people in the Carefree team. Our Qilin team will not take advantage of you. You can choose 3 people from the participating teams. No need. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth slowly raised. A lazy, disdainful, and captivating smile slowly bloomed on her face, dazzling Chu Tianyu's mind and heart. To deal with your Qilin team, the Carefree 7, is enough. Purple Cloud Realm, Divine Elephant City. Hurry, let's go to Flying Dragon City. It will be too late. What's going on? Haven't you heard? The Carefree team is going to compete with the Qilin team. The performance of the Qilin team with the Yuaning stage teacher has been cancelled and changed to a life and death battle with the Carefree team to compete for the title of the strongest person in the Deer Cry Banquet. What? We can't miss such a grand occasion.
Quick.
Let's go now. The match between the Carefree team and the Qilin team was scheduled for an hour later. But in less than 15 minutes, the entire Divine Elephant City was empty. On the contrary, the stands of the Flying Dragon City were densely packed with people. Even if they couldn't enter the Flying Dragon City, they were still guarding the perimeter, unwilling to leave. Everyone knew that Qilin versus Xiaoyao, this would be the most exciting match of the Deer Cry Banquet. If he missed this opportunity, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Between the Kirin team and the Carefree team, who do you think will obtain the final victory? Isn't that obvious?
Of course it was the Qilin team.
Senior brother Chu, senior brother Duan, and eldest Miss Morong, which one of them was not strong enough to fight against 10 people alone? The Qilin team, compared to the other teams participating in the Deer Cry Banquet, is simply not on the same level. Do you really think that if the Carefree team defeated the other teams, they would really be able to win against the Qilin team? Stop joking. That's right, the Carefree team fought so hard against the Fusang team and later lost to the Changing Moon team. But these two teams together are completely not a match for the Qilin team. Chapter 2047. I admit that the Carefree team is very strong, but to say that they can win against the Qilin team, this is absolutely impossible. What's more, don't forget, there are only 7 people in the Carefree team, and each of their cultivation bases is below the 3rd stage of Jindan, while the Carefree team has 4 peak Jindan, and the rest are all in the 8th and 9th stage of Jindan. In short, 90% of the people in the stands are not optimistic about the Carefree team. There's no other reason the gap in strength is too big. But the performance of the Carefree team before is too good. Therefore, the supporters in the stands are not one-sided. There are also many people who are cheering for the Carefree team. It's different from the previous 8 high platforms, 8 flowers in the mirror. At this time, there is only a huge high platform left in the center of Flying Dragon City. On the high platform, there is still a small secret realm constructed by the flowers in the mirror. From the stands, one can clearly see the landscape of the jungle, lawn, and stream inside, and the seats on the high platform, in addition to the contestants of each team. There is also a large group of people, the dean and mentors of the Dragon Soaring Academy. Zhou Xiaoyu, the leader of the Heavens Pivot team, and Lu Jinhang, the leader of the Phoenix Sky King team, look around and swallow their saliva. Lu Jinhang murmurs, "Are the people of the Carefree team crazy? How could they go against the people of the Qilin team?" Zhou Xiaoyu is silent for a long time, then dryly says, You can't say that, can you? The strength of the Carefree team is also very strong." Lu Jinhang rolls his eyes. "Of course I know that the Carefree team is very strong, but do you understand that the Qilin team is a team that can tie with a nascent soul mentor? Otherwise, the Qilin team would not have been specially brought out for this time's chief competition. It's not easy for the Carefree team to beat the Fusang team. Do you really think they can win against the Qilin team? What's more, even with Jun Mayan, there are only 7 people in the Carefree team. Can they really win against the Qilin team, who are all in the late Jinan stage?" Lu Jinhang's words make the 2 participating teams of the Azure Blue Realm show dejected expressions. Although they also hope that the Carefree team will win, although they also don't want to boost other people's morale and diminish their own prestige. In the stands, even little Fatty Zheng, Nalan Dongyun, and the other diehard supporters of Mayan all reveal worried expressions. On the contrary, the supporters of the Kirin team and Chu Tianyu were in high spirits. The news that Chu Tianyu was Yi Liangchen, the great god Yi, spread like wildfire. In such a noisy and tense atmosphere, Qilin team and Carefree team, a total of 17 people, appeared in the center of Flying Dragon City. Murong Xue smiled and stared straight at Luoyu. She smiled gently and said, "Little brother, if I win the competition later, you'll accompany me for a day. If you win, how about I accompany you for a day?" Xue Huailu's arrogant face immediately revealed a venomous expression as he glared at Luoyu with murderous intent. Luoyu looked around and said blankly, "Sister? Where is my sister? Why don't I see her? I only saw an old auntie pretending to be young."
Puchi.
The people of the Xiaoyao sect laughed without giving them any face. Murong Xue was also angered to the point of leaning back, but she quickly put on a charming smile. Little brother Luoyu's mouth really makes the sister love and hate it at the same time. Why don't you let the sister block those sexy lips of yours later? This time, it was Luoyu's turn to blush. Shameless. Murong Xue was tickled by his cute reaction and couldn't stop giggling. Chapter 2048. Her bright and beautiful appearance makes many of Miss Murong's supporters in the stands stare blankly. It also makes Xue Huailu gnash his teeth in hatred. Chu Tianyu doesn't pay attention to Murong Xue and Luoyu, but stares straight at Mayan. After a long time, he says in a hoarse voice, "I will use my strength to prove that I am Yi Liangchen." His words seemed to be swearing something to Mayan. It seemed like he was trying to convince himself. Mayan sneers, too lazy to talk nonsense with him. She directly turns around and enters the mirror gazing. Chu Tianyu closes his eyes, grits his teeth, and waves his hand, enters. The next moment, 17 figures appear in the mirror gazing. As soon as they enter the little secret realm, everyone feels a gust of wind blowing. Their clothes are fluttering, as if it can send people and nearby trees flying together. However, no one present was moved by this scene at all. Chu Tianyu says clearly, "Jun Mayan, I'll give your carefree team one last chance. If you admit defeat now, this match will end immediately." Xue Huailu sneers, "Yeah, it's not too late to admit defeat now. Otherwise, your true colors will be revealed in a moment. The people of Azure Blue Realm will be pulled back to reality, knowing that such a trashy place can't produce any geniuses. Won't this make them sad and disappointed?" Many people of the Qilin team show a relaxed smile. They admit that the Carefree team are cultivation geniuses. But they are also geniuses. And there is a gap between geniuses. These days, everywhere in Dragon Soaring Academy is talking about the Carefree team and Yi Liangchen. They've almost forgotten about the Qilin team, and they don't put the Xian realm in their eyes at all. It's time to let these people see who is the real Heaven's pride. Mayan raises her hand, and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. She slowly sits down, and her slender fingers pluck the strings. I really wonder if your Qilin team is really strong, or if you only know how to shoot your mouth off. Leng Yuma raises the long blade in her hand and casually carries it on her shoulder. She says clearly, "A bunch of idiots. Do you understand my junior sister's meaning? If you don't, this old lady will translate for you. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't fight, get lost." This merciless sentence made the faces of everyone in the Qilin team become extremely ugly. Chu Tianyu sneered, "Fine, I understand what you mean. In battle, our Kirin team has never been afraid of anyone." As soon as he finished speaking, he released his aura, the second layer of air-piercing field. Someone in the stands exclaimed. Even Zhou Daoi and the others who were sitting below were shocked. Air-piercing field domain is one of the rare field domains in the world. It's 100 times more difficult to cultivate than ordinary field domains. Tianyu actually broke through to the second level. As for the other members of the Kirin team, they seem to have received a sign from Chu Tianyu. Following that, his aura burst forth one after another. Duan Wenbin, Chu Yuanlei, Jin Zhonghao, Morong Shui, Zhu Chongliang, and Xue Huailu. There were a total of 10 people in the Qilin team, and 7 of them had activated their domains. Furthermore, Duan Wenbin and Morong Shui were both second-layer domains. At this moment, all the cultivators in the Flying Dragon City were no longer shocked, but overwhelmed with shock. In the entire cultivation continent, how many people had activated their domain before the age of 30? And how many people could cultivate to the second layer of their domain? In the Qilin team, 4 first-layer domains and 3 second-layer domains had suddenly appeared. Chapter 2049. Chu Tinya's domain was the rarely seen, space-piercing domain. The Kirin team is too strong. As expected of the strongest team in the Purple Cloud Realm. Ah, Senior Brother Chu, you're so cool. I love you. Team Qilin will win. The deafening noise rang in the ears of the members of Carefree Team. Muyen presses her ears, the corners of her mouth slowly raising into a disdainful smile. Isn't it just a domain? Do you think we don't? As soon as she finished speaking, an invisible and powerful energy suddenly burst out from her body. In an instant, the explosive domain of the Kirin team was suppressed. Astral domain activated. In an instant, the noise in the audience seemed to have been forcibly stopped. The Dragon Soaring Academy mentors' joyful and proud smiles were still on their faces, but at this moment, they suddenly froze. Such a thick, powerful, and stable domain energy fluctuation. This was clearly a triple domain. But how is that possible? How old is Jun Mayan? Perhaps he wasn't even 20 years old, but he had already activated 3 domains, one higher than Chu Tianyu. At this moment, everyone was silent. Even Chu Tianyu and the other members of the Kirin squad were shocked. However, they did not know that the matter that shocked them to the point their jaws dropped was far from over. After Mu Yen activated the Star Field, Yun Ruhan was the first to activate the Sea of Mountains domain. Second stratum. Someone in the stands shrieked. Yun Ruhan's domain was only at the first level last time, but now it's at the second level. How could it be so fast? Lung Yuma stabbed her long blade into the ground, and the flame domain instantly exploded. It was the same level 2 domain, but it was several times thicker than when he fought against the Japanese team. Qin Jiu let out a roar and suddenly released the power domain. Ho! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Second domain. Another second domain. Oh my god, what kind of people are in Xiaoyao squad? Ling Yuxing slowly took a step forward. This was the first time that the absolute space domain was fully displayed on the stage of the Deer Cry banquet. The second layer of the absolute space domain was unique in the cultivation continent.
Whoosh.
The dean, deputy dean, and instructor of Dragon Ascension Academy stood up abruptly and stared at the young man on the stage. Space territory? It was the space domain. Furthermore, it was a second-layer space domain. This also meant that this young man had reached the peak of speed among cultivators of the same rank. No one could match up to him. There's actually someone who can activate a spatial domain. Zhou Daoi's voice trembled. It wasn't just the space domain. There was also the extremely rare Mountain Sea domain, the extremely ferocious Raging Flames domain, and the mutated Power domain. Moreover, in this Deer Cry banquet, Jun Mayan is the only one who has activated the third domain. Even now, no one knew what kind of domain it was. Carefree team, who are you people? How could he gather so many monstrous geniuses? Did Elder Kong tell him not to provoke the Carefree troop because he had already foreseen their identities?
Gulp, gulp.
On the grandstand, many people began to swallow their saliva.
5.
His voice was light as he said, 1 level 3 domain, and 4 level 2 domain. They're even stronger than the Kirin team. Someone said dryly, but the Qilin team has 7 people who have activated their domains. It's still better than. Chapter 2050. The discussion had yet to die down. The last 2 members of the Carefree team, Luo Yu and Chu Moli, activated their domains simultaneously. Both of them had just activated their domains in the battle against the Fusong team, so they were still at the first level. Moreover, Luo Yu's mirror domain seemed to be the same as Mu Yan's star domain, and no one present recognized it. However, the immense power contained within it made everyone feel fearful. Even the people of the Carefree school only knew the name, Mirror Life, through Yun Ruhan. As for Chu Moli's domain, no one knew what it was called or what it was used for. But this did not hinder the shock and disbelief of everyone present. The Carefree team, a team of 7 people. Every one of them was a genius who had activated their domains. Moreover, 1 was at the 3rd level, 4 were at the 2nd level, and 2 were at the 1st level. The Carefree team and the Qilin team looked at the flowers in the mirror for the first time. In the first match, a contest of domains, the 10-man Qilin team could be said to have been completely defeated. After a moment of silence in the stands of Flying Dragon City, immediately, a small number of people erupted into fierce shouts. These were practitioners from the Azure Blue world. There were also die-hard supporters who had been attracted by the Carefree team recently. Before the start of the match, they really thought that the Carefree team was going to lose and had no chance of winning. However, it was only now that they realized that the person they supported would never disappoint them. Xue Huailu and the others' faces were ashen. They had thought that by releasing their domains, they would be able to intimidate the Carefree team. Xue Huailu was even waiting to see Lan Luyu, that pretty boy, lose his head in fright and flee in panic. But who knew that Lan Luyu had also activated his domain? No, the 7 people of the Carefree team, all of them had activated their domains. The one with the worst expression in the Qilin team was definitely Sui. The Qilin team used to have 6 champions in the 6 lists of the Dragon Ascension. But among the 6 champions, only Sui had not activated his domain. But he mainly practiced control, and the domain of control was the most difficult to activate. Moreover, he was only 26 or 27 years old. Not being able to activate his domain was very normal. He had never felt that he was weaker than others. But now, among the 7 people of the Carefree team, even Yun Ruhan was a little younger than him. The youngest, Luo Yu and Mu Yen, are only around 20 years old. These people's domains were like a slap to his face. Chu Tianyou's expression was heavy, yet he didn't reveal any panic, and he said in a low voice, "All of you, keep your spirits up. The Carefree squad is not as easy to deal with as you think, but we, the Qilin squad, are not afraid of anyone." Huailu support. Yes, captains? Xue Huailu's expression turned serious. He raised his hands and gently waved them in the air. His spiritual power and the energy of his domain spread out together. Before long, white clouds began to appear in the sky. The air was also filled with thick fog. But this thick fog was actually light purple. The clouds condensed, and the pitter-patter of rain fell. But the strange thing was that even though he was looking at the flowers in the mirror, the howling wind and the continuous drizzle could not disperse the thick purple fog at all. When the raindrops landed on her body, Yun Ruhan frowned and said sternly, "Everyone be careful. There's something strange about this rain. It's not just the rain. There's something wrong with the fog as well. Be careful not to breathe it in." Xue Huailu laughed heartily. At this moment, the gloominess on his face had already turned into insolence. Chapter 2051. Only now did you realize? It's already too late. How could trash like you break the Xue family's ultimate support technique, the little art of cloud and rain? Almost as soon as Xue Huailu's voice fell, the Xiaoyao sect members felt their bodies become heavy after being tainted by the cloud and rain, and they couldn't unleash their speed to the limit. After inhaling the purple mist, they felt it even more difficult to breathe, and the circulation of their spiritual power was blocked. This was Team Qilin's #1 support. Xue Huailu naturally had his reasons for being able to top the Ganhua proclamation. Chu Tianyou's reaction was even faster, and he shouted, "Yuanlei Wenbin." "Roger, Captain." With Chu Tianyou's order, the 2 strongest people in Team Qilin, apart from him, immediately soared into the sky and pounced in one direction. They didn't pounce towards Mu Yen, the strongest support, nor Yun Ruhan, the captain. Instead, it was Chu Moli, who was sitting in a wheelchair, the only long-range cultivator in Team Xiaoyao. Qinzhou's eyes were crimson as he suddenly took a step forward and shouted. A wall of earth rose in front of Chu Moli. At the same time, he soared into the sky himself, and a huge fist, mixed with a thunderous aura, suddenly blasted out. The power of this fist was fierce, and its might was so great that it caused the expressions of everyone in Flying Dragon City to faintly change. At this moment, the wild wind in the mirror seemed to stop blowing because of the ferocity of this fist. Even the dense mist that Xue Huailu released was scattered a little. Chu Yuanlei's eyes brightened, and he retreated instead of advancing. He shouted excitedly, "Good momentum, let me try you." Bang! The 2 men's fists collided with each other. The earth shook, and the trees in the distance creaked and fell down one after another. Many people on the grandstand gasped in shock. So strong. Too strong. I really didn't expect that Qinzhou of Team Xiaoyao to have such strength. This was a true contest of strength, a contest of the density of spiritual power. Chu Yuanlei was able to sit at the top of the sky-splitting proclamation before Yi Liangchen appeared, which was enough to show how strong he was. If it was a true contest, even Duan Wenbin of Team Xiaoyao might not be his match. However, Qin Juku had truly withstood his attack. Xiaoyao team, how many more surprises are left for us? As it turned out, the surprise that Team Carefree could bring to everyone, or rather, shock, was far from over. Qinzhou blocked Chu Yuanlei, but Duan Wenbin charged towards Chu Moli with unstoppable force. The long sword brought with it a pressure that could split mountains and split rocks as it slashed towards the sickly young man on the wheelchair. Chu Moli slowly raised his head. Facing the sword ray that resembled the scythe of the Grim Reaper, the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. The next moment, clang. A colorful sword blocked Duan Wenbin's attack. Yun Ruhan's expression was still gentle and modest, but the light in her eyes was firm and resolute. If you want to touch my junior brother, you'll have to ask the sword in my hand first. Duan Wenbin, your opponent is me. Duan Wenbin's pupils constricted in shock. What a vigorous aura, what a steady pressure. His eyes were burning with the desire and throbbing of a long-time opponent. All right, then let me see if you have the qualifications to be my opponent. The swords of the two clashed again. The next moment, the boundless rolling mountain sea domain and the mountain-splitting lightning domain erupted at the same time. The entire flower-gazing mirror began to shake. The spectating cultivators with low cultivation even felt their consciousness and primordial spirits tremble. Chapter 2052. Chu Tianyo's gaze darkened. The carefree squad was indeed very strong. Not just one of them, but all of them were ridiculously strong. But until now, Chu Tianyo's gaze fell on the beautiful girl who was pressing her fingers on the zither. Until now, the person who called himself Yi Liangchen still hadn't made a move. Hee, how can I miss out on such an exciting battle? Murong Shue's face flushed with excitement. As soon as she finished speaking, she soared into the air. The damask of cloud frost in her hand rolled like a snake, directly attacking Chu Moli's face. Chu Moli's lips curled into a bashful smile. Is everyone treating me as their target? Do they really think I'm so weak? His slender fingers lightly moved the armrest of the wheelchair, but he didn't move in the end. This was because Murong Shue was stopped by a long saber before she could reach Chu Moli. Lung Yuma soared into the air, flames raging under her feet, and the long saber on her back. Wanna play? Wanna find excitement? Sure. I'm bored too. I'll play with you. Murong Shue chuckled. You? I'm afraid you're no match for me. Lung Yuma's expression turned cold. Are you looking down on me? Murong Shue's smile became even more confident. How could that be? Who in Divine Elephant City doesn't know the carefree squad's blazing berserk blade Lung Yuma? If we fight head-on, I'm no match for you. But have you forgotten that I used to be at the top of the void list? What I'm good at isn't swords nor close combat, but illusions. Before she could finish her sentence, the domain that had been faintly restrained was suddenly released. The void list tested a cultivator's divine sense, state of mind, and willpower. Those who were able to pass this test were naturally outstanding in this aspect. And Murong Shue was one of them. This was because her domain was created to construct illusions. Lung Yuma only felt her vision blur, and the surrounding scenery instantly changed. And the rain that originally only made her body feel slightly heavy now felt like heavy lead stones, binding her hands and feet. Even in her mind, complicated images began to appear. What's with that look?
Who told you to look at me like that?
Today, I'll beat you to death, you animal. I'll let you know the consequences of disobeying me. Your mother died in my hands. You won't be able to escape from me either. Lung family, everything is mine. Lung Yuma's eyes were scarlet red. Crazy killing intent and despair surged out from the depths of her soul. However, just as her spirit was on the verge of collapse, a melodious tune slowly drifted into her ears and seeped into her soul. It also caused the shackles and fog around her to slowly disperse. Lung Yuma's eyes were clear, and the long blade in her hand suddenly slashed out. With a clang, she cut off a section of the white silk that was aimed at her throat. Murong Shue's expression was one of shock. You actually dispelled my illusions so quickly? How is that possible? Lung Yuma wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and revealed a sinister smile. Create illusions and confuse the mind. My junior sister is here, and you want to play this trick with us? Have you forgotten who's currently ranked first on the void list? Murong Shue suddenly turned her head to look at the young girl sitting in the corner not far away with a stern expression. Yes, It was the young girl Zither that had dispelled her illusion. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.